Sometimes it's stressful juggling all your responsibilities on the weekends. You know you need to do your chores, you know you want to spend time with your family, but really, you just want to watch football all day. Paradise Falls is the perfect option for a family-friendly place to hang out and still have a chance to catch all the games. Open 7 a.m. till midnight and offering breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Paradise Falls has 30 big screen TVs, ESPN3 capabilities, and much, much more. Swing on by Paradise Falls on Brook Street anytime you're in the mood for some food or some football. Paradise Falls, 3621 Brook Street, Missoula's coolest hotspot. Do you remember how fond you were of your baseball cards as a kid? To recapture that feeling, swing into Zootown Sports Cards. Missoula's premier trading card shop carries all the products you will need for collecting, whether you are renewing an old hobby, just getting started, or looking for a fun activity for your kids. With inventory that is updated regularly, Zootown Sports Cards has the best selections at the best prices anywhere in the valley. Open from noon till 6 on Tuesday through Friday and 10 to 6 on Saturdays. Come check out Zootown Sports Cards at South Avenue in Higgins across from Dornblazer Field.
Gentlemen, this is a secure federal facility. Do you have your Montana Real IDs?
ID? I'm Captain Lewis, and this is Captain Clark.
I'm sorry, I can't let you in.
Can't go into federal facilities. Can't fly. Maybe we should just stay on the river.
We'll float home. Let me check the Google. What's a dam?
Discover more at mtrealid.gov. Available now.
Montana Real ID. It's the real me.
Brought to you by the Montana Department of Justice.
Hi, this is Michael Legg, Artistic Director at Montana Repertory Theater. If you loved our season opener, Go Please Go, or even if you missed it but still want to see the rest of the season, you're in luck. Season ticket packages are still on sale for just $70. That's $70 for 3 more innovative and exciting shows, including our production of War of the Worlds in January. Go to montanarep.com to get your tickets today.
Get ready to sing, dance, and laugh until your cheeks hurt with the interactive, unforgettable Dueling Pianos show, October 19th at the UC Ballroom. Dueling Pianos is a gala benefiting Montana children, and you can help by purchasing tickets at montanahope.org. Guests will enjoy a lively evening of dueling pianos, hors d'oeuvres, silent auctions, and raffles. All proceeds will benefit the Montana Hope Project and Catholic Social Services of Montana. Kids 10 and under are free. Learn more and purchase tickets at montanahope.org.
ESPN Radio for Western Montana, KKVU HD3 Stevensville, and 102.9 FM on K275BS Missoula. It's 4 o'clock. Welcome to Montana's only statewide sports talk show. ESPN Radio for Western Montana, 102.9.
Hello, Montana. Now, hello, Montana. Ha-ha! If it's good once, it's good again. Am I right? It is Tutel and Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. Montana and Montana State, 2-0 in the Big Sky Conference. 5-1 overall. 2 different paths to get there, but the result's the same. Great to be with you on this Monday afternoon. Hope you are having a fantastic day. Thanks for spending some time with us on your radios and on your televisions across the state on SWX Montana TV. Hi, how are you? Nice to be with you. We are broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy, online at kurtzpolaris.com. You can find us on the World Wide Web, 1029ESPN.com. There you can listen live whenever you want, thanks to the stream. The stream is available courtesy of Opportunity Bank, your local bank, your opportunity. If you want to call 329-1899, the phone number, 329-1899, that phone number. All guests join us via the Rankage Brothers RV phone line. Let's take a look at what we got in the show today. The first hour every week, like we do every single week, the Montana Football Hour, presented by Lithia Ford. We're going to talk Grizz. We're going to talk Cats. We're going to hear from a bunch of people, coaches, players from these 2 games, Montana and Montana State, both winners on Saturday. Then at the top of the hour, really excited about this. Stick around. Be here at 5 o'clock live. Seattle Seahawks tight end Will Dissly, former Bozeman Hawk, former University of Washington Husky and current Seattle Seahawk, tremendous in his second season for the Seahawks, going to be on with us live. And then after that, very happy because we're going to keep going right with the Seahawks. Greg Bell of the Tacoma News-Tribune covers the Seahawks for them. He's going to join us each Monday now to cover the Seahawks game that was, as Seattle a big winner last weekend, as well over the Los Angeles Rams last Thursday. Great win for the Seahawks. And we will get into some around the Big Sky stuff as well. So plenty to get to. We got to jump right into it. The show outlook today brought to us by Shine Auto Detailing online, MissoulaAutoDetailing.com. Coulter, hi. How are you, man?
Hot.
It is warm.
Overheated. I was fully confident that you were going to die at Canyon River today, so I spent 2.5 hours straight in the studio, which is like sitting in a sauna for 2.5 hours, because I wanted to get all the sound bites ready because I didn't want to talk about myself. I wanted everybody to hear from everybody.
Yeah.
And then you ruined my whole day by showing up.
I'm sorry.
No,
man.
That's actually not true. You actually made my whole day by showing up. Because even with 17 sound bites cut up, I still don't think I could do it. You're the only one that can steer this ship.
No, that is,
I run it straight in the cliff.
That is not true. I did go out and I did have my most epic day of golf in my whole life by far today. A little, the initiative to get golf in schools. We had Joey Yesh, PGA Teaching Pro, in here last week talking about this thing. So today was the big fundraiser. I was supposed to play 100 holes of golf at Canyon River. There was some frost this morning, delayed to start. I did not get to 100, Coulter. 97 holes. Dude, I have sat down in this chair here. And once, the rigor mortis sets in or whatever, I don't think I'm going to move again. I mean, I have done myself in today, so I am a little loopy, but I am happy, and it was a great day to be out there. And by the way, you can still donate to that, I think, for the next 2 weeks. And so the way I figure it, I came up 3 holes shy. So that's, if you donate per hole, you're saving money. Donate $100 per hole, you save $300 because I didn't get all the way to 100. I got to 97. So anyway, it was great to be out there. Certainly happy to do that and happy to do it for the kids. You think it's going to be fun, Coulter, and then it is, and then it's less so, and then it's sort of like, it's, I don't know if miserable's the word, but you're like, wow, still here, still going. Okay, keep swinging away.
It's kind of like home run derby, right? Like I don't really, I played 36 straight holes of golf 2 days in a row earlier this summer.
Yeah.
And I played in that country club tournament last year with our good buddy Nick Tabor. Shout out to Nick if he's listening.
Yep.
And that was, I think, amounted to be about 72 holes in 3 days. And that's great. But the repetitive nature of it, I think that you get into a groove, but then all of a sudden you just get sloppy. Because you played golf with me. I practice swing 4 or 5 times before I hit the ball every time. So if I'm doing that for 100 holes, I'm on swing 5,000.
No. And that was the key. 0 practice swings today. You go up, you hit the doggone thing. I played my first 9, Coulter, in 34 minutes. Smoking. Anyway, that was fun. It's on to bigger and better things, namely football in the state of Montana. So the Montana Football Hour is presented by Lithia Ford of Missoula. And Coulter, you and I were sitting next to each other in the press box on Saturday. We witnessed the same thing as everybody else did, and it was something to behold. Idaho State came out and they had the better scheme going initially, and they executed better, and they outplayed Montana both directions for the first quarter and change of that football game. Had a 17-0 lead, and then the pendulum swinging, it's supposed to swing and then swing back and then kind of go back and forth, that's the idea. Pendulum's not really the right thing here. I don't know what this was. This was like the big kid sat on the other side of the teeter-totter and then just shot Idaho State right off the seat. I mean, 59-3 after being down 17-0. 4 total touchdowns for Dalton Snead, 2 passing, 2 running, 464 total yards of offense. He is, for the 3rd time in a row, the conference offensive player of the week.
First time in Grizz history.
It's amazing. And I mean,
first time a quarterback's done it since Gage Goober did a couple years back.
It's the sort of thing where, you win it the 1 week, okay, you back it up with another one, impressive. And now I think all the voters are kind of looking around going, okay, we got to find somebody else to give it to. And then in week 3, it's just no doubt. I mean, if it wasn't going to Dalton Sneed, it probably has to go to Samori Torre, something like that. I mean, this was an absolutely unprecedented 3 quarters of offensive football that Montana put together. You're sitting there, you're looking at this thing, you're thinking, what?
Well, I think all sorts of things. Let's hear from Coach Hauck first, just his thoughts on this victory, because I do think that there's some details in terms of the X's and O's that we'll get into in the second segment that are crucial, but I also think there's a lot of exterior elements in this game. This game had a greater meaning than maybe even just the explosive offensive performance and Montana dominating Idaho State for the last 3 quarters.
This is post-game, by the way, because it's a bye week this week. No press conference today for the University of Montana, so all this sound is coming immediately after the game on Saturday. So here you go, Bobby Hauck on their win.
Well, obviously that's a great win for us. Idaho State's got a good football team. They're well coached. They were ready to play. They came in and punched us and had us down big early on. So a lot of credit to them, and then a lot of credit to our guys too, because we don't have a bunch of give in us, and they should be proud of their guys for how they came into this game and went toe to toe. And then our guys, I'm proud of because of our resilience and our ability to fix things when they aren't going well and go out and get the win. And so I'm proud of our team, and I'm glad on this great homecoming weekend we got the W.
So I want to take this incrementally because I do think there's so much stuff to talk about here. But first and foremost, you got to start with Dalton Sneed. I thought that Dalton Sneed, the first series, was a little bit crossed up by what Idaho State threw at him. In the second series,
and he also missed. I mean, he had some looks that he overshot and was behind guys.
And then in his second series, he got hit on the elbow. We thought it was a shoulder at first, and you pointed out going into the third series, Dalton Sneed was standing along the sidelines and he was throwing, and he was just gingerly, barely lofting it. We're like man,
a windmill.
And he's struggled with that right shoulder from tendonitis, but also getting hit so much like he did last year. And so we were like, man, okay, maybe he's hurt again. But you could see him shaking his hand. And then my brother noticed that he was, my brother Brooks Nuanez, who was on the sidelines as a photographer, noticed that he was rubbing his elbow. And then you could see it. He kind of maybe had some numbness in his hand or maybe wasn't feeling it right. And he was sailing his throws. I think that was partially because he was so jacked up because it's homecoming, and also partially because he took a pretty big hit on that second series. Well, then once he shook it off, then they really got into a groove. 464 yards of total offense. He's the Big Sky Conference Offensive Player of the Week, but also the FCS National Offensive Player of the Week. The 464 yards of total offense, the most since Brian Ayotte back in 1996. And he did it all. I mean, in the second through fourth quarter, he looked like – I was getting texts from people that have been Grizz fans for 30-plus years that were saying, is Sneed the best quarterback Montana's ever had? I mean, I think it's impossible to ever summit the mountain that is Dave Dickinson.
Of course.
And Brian Ayotte was tremendous, and his production will never be matched just because of the offense that they were running back then. But Sneed is right up there, and especially in the 21st century. So let's hear Bobby Hauck on Dalton Sneed because I think that was the key to the game was Dalton Sneed settling down and settling in.
You know, I'd say this about Dalton. His stat line's pretty fantastic, but his practice this week was pretty fantastic as well. But he's such a competitive guy. I think he was awfully juiced up and wanted to be perfect during the game, and we missed some things in the first quarter that after that he was money. And, it was just a great game by him.
This happens almost every week, it seems like, Coulter, where we go, is Dalton hurt? Did Sneed get banged up? Is his shoulder okay? In the third quarter, and we have it on the replay too, on in the press box, we're watching it on TV as well. He got his ankle significantly twisted. I mean, he went down and he hopped up, and you could see him wincing in pain and hobbling off. And the replay, you could see, oh yeah, the foot's not supposed to be turned at that angle. That doesn't feel good at all. And it just doesn't matter. And every time you go, okay, well, is it a shoulder? Is it an elbow? Is it an ankle? And it's probably all of the above, and it just doesn't matter.
There's so much talk. I mean, one of the biggest misnomer cliches in all of sports is the notion of how crazy important it is to start fast in a football game. And also, all the reporters always say, what was your halftime speech, Coach? Mm-hmm. Great college football teams none of that matters. And I think that's where we're at with both the Cats and the Grizz. We'll hear from Derek Marks here in a minute from Montana State, and he said the same thing. He said, sometimes it just takes you a minute to settle into a football game. And if you're like the Cats, where you prioritize finishing so strong, then you can overcome the settling in. Like, the Cats gave up an 18-play drive on their first drive against Cal Poly. But then they were pretty much lights out for the next 2.5 quarters against the option. Cal Poly grinded them a little bit in the last 10 minutes, sent the game to overtime, but settling in really is a factor. I think you also see that with Montana. Everybody wonders, why aren't they just flying out the gate? Well, it's because Tim Rosenbaugh is such a systematic chess player when he's calling his offense. He wants to see what the opposing team's going to do. And on Saturday, Montana couldn't run the ball between the tackles. That was what Idaho State was going all out on. I was sitting next to Bob Beers, former offensive line coach for University of Montana, and he was pointing out the bear front that the Idaho State was running. They were running both their D tackles on the inside shade. They were running both their D ends inside. And so Montana had to recognize that and then make an adjustment. Well, when they did, the adjustment was Sammy Akem on a slant. Stop me, I dare you, throughout the whole second quarter. Idaho State adjusts on that. Okay, Samari Torrey up the sideline all day long. That's where Montana's offense is so dangerous. And if you Samari Torrey, he talked just about that. I think this quote is so revelatory, the level of confidence that Montana's playing with right now.
Well, we just have a really great offense in general, and just when everybody does our job, I don't think there's too many people who can stop us except ourselves. So, we just had to trust in the system and just keep on going, keep on staying persistent, keep on doing our jobs, and ultimately we found success.
When you and Sammy both got rolling, did they switch up coverages on you a lot, or were you seeing more of the same stuff?
No, we were seeing more of the same stuff. They didn't have too many adjustments to make.
There's no adjustment you can make on those two guys.
Right. Well, and this is what was remarkable, right? Sammy Akem, no receptions in the first quarter. 8 for 104 in the second quarter.
Yep.
In the second quarter, people. 104 yards receiving in the second quarter. And they found what couldn't be guarded and then just kept going. It's like when you get hit in the shoulder over and over and over again, like the first couple of times, like, okay, by the 9th and 10th time you're getting hit in the shoulder, it's just like you feel like your arm's going to fall off. And they just kept going back to that spot against Idaho State. And then in the second half, it was Samari Torrey's turn. And what did he go for? 184 yards?
He had 180 of his 188 yards after halftime.
Right. 188 yards total.
So you had one guy have 100 yards in a quarter, and the other guy had 180 yards in 2 quarters.
Right. Just completely impressive all the way around.
I thought there was a domino-like effect in the terms of the adjustments and key plays that the Grizz were able to harness, and we'll get into that in the second segment. So final thought on the Grizz during this segment, I think that it's so easy to get optimistic after wins, and we don't really know how this is all going to play out. UC Davis lost on Saturday, which then sort of takes Montana's win a week ago a notch down, I guess you could say, but they were still the number 4 team in the country at the time that Montana was able to put them away. And who knows, maybe Idaho State sputters. I mean, to me, Mitch Guller looked like he lost more than a step. I mean, he does not look healthy. He was not running like he used to run. Matt Struck has a great arm, but you could tell he's easily rattled. So we'll see how much of a quality win Idaho State is or not. But the intangible element of the way that Saturday felt, we were broadcasting from the base of the footbridge. I mean, how many of my old buddies came up and talked to us?
Yeah.
I haven't seen those guys at Grizz games forever. I try to talk to them and reach out to them and be like, what do you think of the Grizz? Like, I don't really know, man. I kind of don't really follow it. They're all back in full force on the field before the game, talking to Coach Houck, talking to Coach Fennessy, talking to everybody. And granted, having Idaho State in town, too, where you have a bunch of coaches
doubles up,
that they were friends with. But still, I mean, we saw Mark Mariani and Ty Palmer and Cole Berquist all in the press box. I mean, these guys, they're back. And that's a key element of Grizz football, is embracing the history and tradition. And I think that the feeling on Saturday was one of great optimism around everything that's going on in Grizz football.
Last thought for me on this. We've seen Montana be behind before in recent years. And I must say that first quarter, I mean, I think a lot of people, if you're honest with how you felt at the end of the first quarter, and then as soon as that 17-0, margin was created, you sit there and you go, okay, well, what's going on here? Like, is Idaho State really that good? But when Montana scored their first touchdown, and particularly then their second, and it's 17-14, you go, oh, here we go. And, would I have guessed 59-3? No, nobody would. But you sat there, like, it just felt as if Montana there was never worry, there was never panic, and once they sort of shut the door defensively and opened up the floodgates offensively, there was no going back. Like, it was over.
We'll get into some of the key adjustments that they made and where the game turned, because I think there's some ones you can really point to. I thought that was one of the most interesting analyses of the chess match. Well, let's get in the Cats.
Yeah. Tutel and Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. It's the Montana Football Hour presented by Lithia Ford. Montana State, they kind of do the opposite thing. Not exactly, but they're up early, 28-7,
right,
which they've been wanting to be ahead early in a game, don't have to come back. Cal Poly, though, is always going to be an anomaly, and Cal Poly scores 21 points in the fourth quarter.
Last 11 minutes of the fourth quarter.
Yeah, ties the thing up, and into overtime, here goes Montana State, and you're going, oh, my goodness. Because, if you score the last 3 touchdowns of a game, momentum's with you, presumably, heading into the extra period. But Montana State able to shut down Cal Poly, and then Travis Johnson, the walk-off touchdown, game winner.
The Cats had the lead, even though they hardly had the ball. I mean, Cal Poly held the ball for 12 full minutes in the first quarter alone. They ended up with 39 minutes of possession in this game during regulation, which is crazy. I mean, the Cats had 21 minutes and change. So Cal Poly 38 minutes and change in time of possession. But in the fourth quarter, Cal Poly has a long marching drive. They score 28-14. Tucker Rovick throws a bad pick. Cal Poly capitalizes right away. And then Montana State, or Cal Poly gets a stop, and Jared Padmas, who's been lights out as a punter. I mean, if it wasn't for Adam Wilson being the single most ridiculous weapon I've seen in a long time as a punter, Jared Padmas would be the leader in the clubhouse. 2 of the best punters in the country are right here in Montana.
Yeah.
But Padmas, first time all year, shanks a punt. It was like a 5-yard punt. And
you never see, because people, he rolls
out
and does the rugby style kick and gets the roll out of it. That's what he does, and he's really good at it. You don't see him shank punt. He shanked it.
It's like Jeff Choate said, if you have a 5-yard punt, that's a pick. I mean, it's just like throwing a pick, because you give the team the ball so close. And so that's what happened. Then Cal Poly has another short field.
Yeah.
Short fields for Cal Poly is just brutal.
Yeah.
And so they tied the game. Go to overtime, but in overtime, I thought the Cats defense absolutely bowed up. Tackles for loss are not a thing against Cal Poly, because they're going to cut you at the line, and at the very least, the fullback's going to get to the line and fall forward and get a half a yard or a yard. Getting a tackle in the backfield is almost impossible. Derek Marks had 2 in a row, which is a testament to him.
Totally.
And then Cal Poly foolishly gets a false start penalty, and now they're backed up, and they have a 48-yard field goal, and they shank it. And then the Cats say, we're not screwing around. There's no throwing. There's no nothing. We're going to snap the ball to Travis Johnson once, twice, 3 times. Bam, touchdown, game winner, walk-off.
Here is Jeff Choate talking about the win in overtime.
We don't really ever change. It is what it is. Can't get too high or too low. You got to go play the next play. I thought our guys on defense, our leaders, guys like Derek Marks, Chase Benson, Bryce Sturck, those guys rose to the occasion. I really felt like Callahan O'Reilly had a great game for us tonight, did a tremendous job. Big task, obviously, what we asked him to do. And even, guys like Troy on the perimeter, that's not something he's done a whole lot. So stylistically, it's different. And our guys, I thought, did a really good job. We put our defense in some awful situations in the second half there, in fourth quarter in particular, with a shanked punt and the interception. And unfortunately, weren't able to hold serve on that. But I think our guys got more comfortable as the game went on in terms of defending what they were trying to do.
So there's Choate on the win. Here's Choate on the game-winning player, Travis Johnson.
I mean, he's the type of guy on the sidelines. He wants the ball in his hands, and clearly weren't able to get it to him as much as we'd like through the air at times. And so after they missed the field goal, it's pretty much let's just go put this thing away. And he was the right guy to put the ball in his hands for sure.
He certainly was. Here is Travis Johnson himself on the game-winning touchdown.
Last moment, man, we just needed it. We needed everybody to step up. O-line stepped up huge. All that, the whole drive was the whole line. They left me big holes on that touchdown. They left me a hole really big. I just took it. So huge credit to that last drive for them. It was all them.
Last piece of sound for you from this game, at least right now, Derek Marks talking about the victory for the Cats.
They came back on us, and we had to fight. At the end, they made some good plays and came back. And, I'm just proud of the way we competed and proud of the way the guys, stuck together and didn't flinch again. We need to clean some things up, obviously, and stay out of these close games. But I'm proud of the way our team competed, and I'm proud of the way, we rose up at the end and came out victorious. So
I got to say, Coulter, that's a really good point by Derek Marks, because when you're up 28-7 and then you give up 3 touchdowns in the last 11 minutes, you have to go to overtime. Even if you're, really good team and all that, it's easy to just go, what do we got here? Which it would have been easy to do in week 1 for Montana State when they're down 28-7 and 31 14 in the second half. They didn't do it. They just go, okay, We're going to make this happen. We're going to figure it out, and they did twice in a row, and that's impressive in its own right.
Apologies for Cal Poly's excellent band playing.
They're banging it out there.
Can't really control that. You got to control what you can control. But to that song,
control the controllables, Coulter.
That song they were playing there though during Derek Marks' interview. That's the overture from the beginning of Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, the greatest movie ever made, and that's the greatest orchestral soundtrack of all time. So. Therefore, that is the greatest soundbite to ever be played on Two Tell Nuanez, simply because of the background music.
I'm not sure I'm ready to go all time with Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves.
It's not the greatest movie of all time. It's my favorite movie.
Okay, and that it holds a special place in my heart also, I must say.
Not a lot of TV watching allowed in the Nuanez household when I was a little kid. The only movie we owned with real people in it that wasn't home videos of me and my brother was that movie. So every time I stayed home from school sick as a kid, that's the movie I watched. So I ended up watching it like 100 times. It's a great movie.
Coulter,
but I think your point is well taken about Derek Marks, and I think this is one dichotomy between the two programs right now that's worth noting. But I think everybody that follows this stuff has their own version of what's the best way to win, and I think that people need to understand that there's a variety of ways to win. I think that the thing that the Cats are getting close to mastering is just winning at all costs. I'm not sure that they're going to ever win pretty this year, but they are tough, man. You cannot put this team out. And I think that that's what you've seen. Whether they're down 31-14 late in the third quarter and they come storming all the way back just by running the ball, or like you said, to blow a 21-point lead in the fourth quarter, but then to bow up like that and win in overtime, that's an impressive effort by Montana State. And I thought the two coaches, their last comments of the press conferences were so interesting. Bobby Hauck, and we'll get to it in the third segment here, but he basically was like, we're still searching to play the perfect game, and we're going to keep trying until we do. Whereas Jeff Choate says, it doesn't matter how many you win by, you just got to win, and we just won on the road, and that's all we care about. It doesn't matter if it's pretty. It only matters we took care of business. And Montana State now took care of business 5 weeks in a row, 5-game winning streak, longest since 2012. Both Montana and Montana State mid-October rolling pretty good.
It's Two Tell Nuanez, Montana Football Hour presented by Lithia Ford. We'll take a break on the other side. We'll listen to Bobby Hauck on a couple of different things on ISU's Inside Slants, and Robbie Hauck as well, is about his big hit on Struck. And that was, you're never going to see a 150-pound person make a harder hit than the one Robbie made on the ISU quarterback. So we'll get to all that in a moment. Hey, at the Silver Slipper, it's all about great food, tasty beverages, and the urge to have a good time. Whether you're looking for an affordable family meal or a late-night game of poker, the Silver Slipper has what you're looking for. Right now, Silver Slipper is your football headquarters. You ready for this? Free shuttle to every Grizz home game. 56 televisions at the bar to watch football on. Drink specials every single day. Full liquor bar, Tarantino's Pizzeria, and the friendliest staff in town. So you go, you get everything, the to and from games, and everything you need afterwards as well. Visit the silverslipperlounge.com for more info. Stop by today and see why the Silver Slipper is one of Montana's best kept secrets across the street from Super Walmart on Brooks, the Silver Slipper.
No matter how far you may go, there's always one just down the road. Town Pump, ooh, pump it up, pump it up.
Quench your thirst with some good old-fashioned water. Town Pump's got Dasani 1-liter bottled water, 2 for $2.50. And in the deli, grab an Everything Bagel, 2 for $5. Town Pump, there's one just down the road from you.
Town Pump, right down the road, pump it up. Oh, yeah.
There's only one way to really enjoy fall sports, and that's on a full stomach. So whether you're watching the NCAA, MLB, NHL, NFL, NBA, whatever the letters, the Desperado has an A-plus menu to fill your belly while you're cheering on your team. Head to the Desperado for a juicy bacon burger, a steaming plate of cheesy nachos, ice-cold beer, and hands down, the best hot wings in town. If it's a steak you're looking for, well, they've got that too. Whether the game ends in a win or a loss, get your winner Despo dinner at the Desperado Sports Tavern on South Russell, across from the Y.
Hi there, it's Les Schwab Tires. You know, we've been helping keep folks safe on the road around here since 1952. That's why you can save up to $152 on a set of 4 select light truck and SUV tires during our fall tire sale. So swing by or book an appointment at leschwab.com. Les Schwab Tires. doing the right thing since 1952. Limited time offer while supplies last. Discount depends on tire size and type. Cannot be combined with other offers. Details at leschwab.com.
On Russell, across from the fairgrounds. Donald Rivard Jr. is a disabled veteran of the U.S. Army living in beautiful Florence, Montana. Don needs the help of his community to offset the cost of a kidney transplant he will be having soon. Montana Branded is hosting a raffle now through October 17th with tons of great prizes to help Don during this time. Purchase a raffle ticket for a chance at prizes like half a hog, a custom log bench, and more. Contact Cynthia at 360-742-7747 or search Don Rivard Kidney Transplant on Facebook to help today.
Hi, this is Michael Legg, Artistic Director at Montana Repertory Theater. If you loved our season opener, Go Please Go, or even if you missed it but still want to see the rest of the season, you're in luck. Season ticket packages are still on sale for just $70. That's $70 for 3 more innovative and exciting shows, including our production of War of the Worlds in January. Go to montanarep.com to get your tickets today.
Get ready to sing, dance, and laugh until your cheeks hurt with the interactive, unforgettable Dueling Pianos show, October 19th at the UC Ballroom. Dueling Pianos is a gala benefiting Montana children, and you can help by purchasing tickets at montanahope.org. Guests will enjoy a lively evening of dueling pianos, hors d'oeuvres, silent auctions, and raffles. All proceeds will benefit the Montana Hope Project and Catholic Social Services of Montana. Kids 10 and under are free. Learn more and purchase tickets at montanahope.org.
ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
Good afternoon, Ryan Tutel, Colton Nuanez. Here's some sports news for you. Montana and Montana State continued rolling over the weekend, each staying undefeated against FCS opponents as the season reaches its midpoint. The Grizz overcame a 17-0 deficit to Avalanche. Idaho State going on a 59-3 run to stamp a 59-20 homecoming victory with authority. Montana senior quarterback Dalton Snead threw for 397 yards and 2 touchdowns, while rushing for a team-high 67 yards and 2 more scores. The number 8 Grizz scored 24 unanswered points in the second quarter to take a touchdown lead into halftime, gave up a second-half field goal, and scored 35 unanswered points to finish the game. Mari Torrey had a career day, hauling in 8 catches for 188 yards and a score. Sammy Akem also had 8 receptions, a 10 total. 104 of those yards of his 135 total were in the second quarter to spark the comeback. UM enters its bye week with a 5-1 record that includes 5 straight wins over like opponents.
Montana State's 5th straight victory did not come so easily, but the 6th-ranked Bobcats emerged with a 34-28 overtime win at Cal Poly nonetheless. MSU built a 28-7 lead despite only possessing the ball for 21 minutes and change, only to see the Mustangs score 3 fourth-quarter touchdowns. In the extra period, Cal Poly missed a field goal on its first possession, and senior Travis Johnson ripped off the game-winning touchdown.
This ESPN Missoula Sports Center is brought to you by Aspen Sound.
Welcome back. We continue in the Montana Football Hour, presented by Lithia Ford of Missoula. It is Tutel Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio, SWX Montana Television. Hello. Broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris, 2904 West Broadway, Missoula Highway 83, and Sealy online at kurtzpolaris.com. 30 minutes from right now, be here. Will Dissly going to join us, Seattle Seahawks tight end, former Washington Husky, and former Bozeman Hawk. That's right, Bozeman High School. And second-year pro for the Seahawks, and he is, he's been outstanding for Seattle. Even his rookie year was cut short due to injury, and then now here in his second season, picking up right where he left off. So we will look forward to talking to him at 5 o'clock. Golter, we continue the key moments from the Grizz in this football game. Houck says it was ISU's inside slant. Idaho State slant was working for them early. They decided they needed to step up, take that thing away, and it worked out when they did it. Here's the sound.
We weren't playing it particularly well. Their RPO game hurt us early. We allowed them to run the ball way too effectively in the first quarter and the first part of the second quarter. They were complete passes at a high rate. I mean, we did not play well on defense in that first quarter, and part of that's us, part of that's them. I don't want to take credit away from them. They were doing some great things.
Ty Flanagan in particular, Coulter, I mean, the first quarter, watching him run, you were going, oh, my goodness, to say nothing of the 71-yard long rush that he had, but he was not going down on first, second, or third contact. He was really, really impressive. But after he got off to that big start, I mean, he had 130 yards rushing. You go, wow, well, that's a big day. Well, it all happened in the first 20 minutes of the football game. After that, it was curtains. For him and everybody else in the running game, impressive by Montana to be able to just shut that door.
The RPO, especially the style that Idaho State runs, it needs to be a well-oiled machine, and if it's not a well-oiled machine, it's a very, very clunky machine. It either all works or it doesn't work. When you're gashing with the inside run game, now all of a sudden Mitch Guller, Mikey Dean, they're open over the top. When you're getting anything in the inside run game, all of a sudden that short slant that Mikey Dean loves to run out of the slot is wide open. But when you take that away, now all of a sudden then you can beat receivers up on the perimeter, and all the deep stuff doesn't work nearly as well either. And I thought that Montana made great adjustments in both fashions. I thought they really shored up the run game. Dante Olson, 18 tackles, and he deserves a lot of credit for being able to slow that down. They also, I don't know what happened with Flanagan, but he wasn't really in the game in the second half.
Yeah, I do think he got banged up somewhere along the line.
And then I thought the other absolute key moment of the game, Matt Struck was 8 of his first 9 for 135 yards, including that 71-yard catch and run by Mikey Dean. Josh Sandry went down with a little bit of an injury. I don't know what it was, but he was kind of in and out in the second half, but they decided to play Nash Fouch at that third safety spot, and Nash Fouch was basically operating as the nickel, and he was beating up Mikey Dean off the line. But I thought that the key moment was, and Rob Fennessy broke this down, Montana, I thought that they were running a true safety blitz because Robbie Houck came on pressure 3 different times in the second quarter, but it turns out that only one of those was a call, and Robbie Houck acknowledged that too. But Rob Fennessy was saying they were leaving their tight end in to protect, to try to get Struck more time. And Montana's scheme was for Robbie Houck to guard the tight end one-on-one. Such a smart player that he says, oh, this guy's staying to protect, I'm going. Well, he gets home early, but he doesn't get a sack, but he hit Struck. And then Struck was kind of looking. Then he got Struck to double pump, and he smashed him. And after that, Struck was 8 of 9 for 135 yards. He went 0 of his next 7. He didn't complete a pass until midway through the third quarter. So the last 8 minutes of the second quarter into the third quarter, he had happy feet. And Mike Ferreter told Andrew Houghton that today. Andrew Houghton, now of the Idaho State Journal, who used to work for me, SkyOnSportsMT.com. Ferreter said, hey, bad mechanics, second and third quarters. Struck just was not setting his feet. He was not making the throws we need him to make. And I thought that hit on Robbie Houck was the first domino to fall in Montana, being able to mount that 24-point second quarter.
Let's hear from Robbie Houck about the big hit.
You're able to get to the quarterback. It's definitely a positive for the defense. I actually got to him early in the first quarter, and then I was able to get to him again. And I think when you get hit by someone you're not used to seeing come, he started eyeballing me a little bit. So I think that helped the defense out a lot. Just rattling quarterback's big from a defensive perspective.
And that's the other thing too, right? Like, it's one thing to get hit by a guy who's like, okay, he comes around the end, what's what he's supposed to do. It's another thing when a guy who's playing 15, 18 yards behind the line of scrimmage all of a sudden takes a run at you and gets home. I mean, that was big time, and that was a huge hit, and like you said, a huge momentum shift in this football game. Houck also talked about the mismatches on the perimeter. Here's what he had to say on that.
Yeah, I think we had a gauge on it. Our problem in the first quarter was we didn't have enough plays. We had a couple first downs, and then we ended up punting it on fourth and very short 3 times. Didn't think it was the right call to go for it. Hindsight, maybe I would have, because we didn't stop them anyway.
There's no such thing as a perfect football game, right? Even that. Just letting, if you go back, it's like, well, what the heck? If they're going to go the whole distance of the field, might as well try and keep the ball on fourth down. But there was, some mismatches in there on the perimeter. And, but if you don't have the football, you can't really exploit those things. And then finally in the second quarter, they started generating some first downs and just started going right to it. And that is at least part of what changed offensively for Montana.
I think that is one of the symbolic things that I'm talking about, in the fact that I think that people have talked about, the endless storyline here is comparing and contrasting Bobby Houck, his first tenure, to now. And there's a lot of similarities, there's a lot of differences. And so much of those have to do with just the landscape of the state, the landscape of college football, the way that the game has evolved since then, the talent at his disposal, all those things. One of the areas I've seen Coach Houck grow the most is the trust that he's put in his coordinators, and the fact that he's not as stubborn in terms of establishing what he wants to do. First time around, the Grizz are going to establish the run early and often. And they were able to do it against almost everybody because they had the best offensive line in the league and they had the best running backs in the league. No question. I mean, they had multiple NFL running backs, multiple NFL offensive linemen. Pretty easy to establish the run. Now Montana, with the roster that they've inherited and just the acumen that Tim Rosenbach has showed so far, they take what the defense is going to give you. And the fact that they now have almost certain mismatches on the perimeter and they have a quarterback who's in maybe the best groove of anybody in the country, now you can really roll. And I never really thought I was going to see a Bobby Hauck offense where the quarterback was throwing for over 400 yards multiple times in a season. We're only halfway through the season, and Dalton Snead's already been around 400 3 different times. So, I mean, he's lighting it up, and the Grizz receivers are lighting it up too. And I thought that was one of the key adjustments as well. They said, okay, you're going to take away our inside run game. You're going to take away some of our stuff, some of our short passing game. We're going to ISO a Cam up top. Boom. Hit him. And then as soon as they adjust to that, then they're going to send Samori Toure deep. And I thought it was great coaching and also great execution by the players.
You know, lost in all this that happened, too, is the run game in general. Now, Adam Eastwood came in, had that big 51-yard touchdown run late in the game. Okay. But, I mean, this is a team, 191 yards on the ground, with 67 yards from their quarterback being the guy who rushed for the most. But as a group, they had 204 yards gross gain and then 191 net. So, you know, split the difference, call it 200 yards. 200 yards on the ground, you're going to be winning football games. The difference is a lot of the running is now happening kind of later in the game. It's happening throughout, but it's not the thing that is establishing the offense, as it were. It is. I think the balance is actually really good. I think that that it's not even about balance. I mean, everybody talking about balance. It's about what you need to do against a given opponent that makes you better than them on a given day, and depending on who that team is, should dictate what it is that you do. They got a bunch of people involved, and 3 guys go over 50 yards rushing, and you end up with 200 on the ground taken in total. And that in a game like what happened on Saturday is sort of lost in the mix because of all the things that happened, obviously, through the air.
Jeff Choate said it a couple times in a row, but he always talks about college football is such a long game, and I think that's why it's so key to stay the course. You can't get too high, you can't get too low. You got to believe in what you're doing, and when you make the right adjustments, you got to believe in those adjustments as well. And I thought that the adjustments Montana made, combined with the key play by Robbie Hauck to get Matt Struck rattled, and he stayed rattled then from there on, I thought that was huge. And in the Montana State game, I thought that Montana State was on the field for 18 straight plays in the first quarter, almost 12 minutes of game action. And during that time, they were kind of feeling it out too. And then after they felt it out, they really played well in the second quarter, and then Cal Poly made some adjustments, but Montana State was able to counter, and those counters then led them to really finding it in the overtime. And those 2 plays in OT, because they were able to anticipate and also because the calls meshed up perfectly to stop what Cal Poly had in mind, that was the key adjustment in the game, and that's what helped them win in overtime.
For Montana State, that adjustment, let's listen to Jeff Choate talking about the defensive line adjustments they made.
We came up with a couple little subtle nuances that I think did help us in the second half in terms of some movement things that we were able to slip some gaps and get them off schedule. That's the whole critical aspect, is getting those guys off schedule. And once they get into a second and long, it makes it a little bit easier to defend them. They become a little bit more predictable.
Well, especially in the overtime. I mean, you know, you talk about, well, it's only one series. Well, it's one series in overtime. And in college overtime, that's all you got is one series. So you got to make it happen. And like you said, 2 consecutive tackles for loss, the unusual but nonetheless poor timing for Cal Poly offside. Third, triple option teams, they're not going anywhere on 3rd and 15. 3rd and 10, 3rd and whatever it is. I mean, they have to gain yards every time, and the offense is built to gain yards every time, which is why, as you said, TFLs are so unusual. But when you get 1, not to say nothing of 2, and then you have an offside, I mean, it's almost it's done. Like, you've won the possession. Nobody's going anywhere at that point, it seems like. And so that was huge for Montana State to be able to do that and maybe use a couple of those adjustments that were made to get Cal Poly off schedule. And the Travis Johnson walk-off is the easy thing to see, but as important is the defensive stand that was dominant when it had to be.
Montana State's D-line's playing at an elite level right now. Them and Weaver State are definitely the two best defensive fronts in the league. And the emergence of Callahan O'Reilly can't be underrated. I mean, Josh Hill has not played for 2 straight games, not sure what his status is. But Nolan Askelson has been flipping between Mike and Will. Linebacker Michael Jobman is not on the depth chart this week, so he might be banged up as well. So they turned to Callahan O'Reilly. And Callahan O'Reilly had 16 tackles in that game. I mean, this guy's a converted high school quarterback who's only now really had a full year and a half under his belt to really develop at that position. And I thought he played his best game as a Bobcat. So when you combine the level the defensive front's playing at, and then the fact that they were able to lean on the depth that they've talked about all season, is an impressive performance for Montana State. I know that they were favored in that game, but they were favored by 6, and they won by 6. So they just a push when it comes to the Vegas line, and it took overtime. But a win's a win in the Big Sky Conference, especially on the road. So I think if you're a fan of either the Bobcats or the Grizzlies, you got to be pretty satisfied with where the two teams are at right now at the midpoint of the year.
We're 42 minutes in. It feels like we haven't even scratched the surface of these two games and what we could get into, and certainly will throughout the rest of the week. But nonetheless, at the end of the day, how you do it is more window dressing than the fact that you did do it. And for Montana State and for the Montana Grizzlies, they both did it, and they both sit here at 5-1. And if you would have told me that both these teams would be 5-1 with their one loss coming to Power 5 opponents, in the FBS level, 6 weeks in, I would have said, okay, let's see it happen. And it has happened, and that's impressive. So now a bye week for Montana while the Cats get ready for their homecoming Saturday. We'll take a quick break. On the other side, we continue with the Montana Football Hour, this time at the high school level. What took place over the course of the weekend. We'll get into some of that stuff right after this. The Montana Football Hour is sponsored by Lithia Ford of Missoula. Right now, get 0% for 72 months on the 2019 Ford F-150. The Ford F-150 makes tough tasks look easy, whether it's working on the job or heading out on a weekend of recreation. You can also check out the all-new Ranger, tested under more extreme conditions than you will likely ever encounter. Set a date for your next adventure. Your Ranger is ready to get you there. Lithia Ford, across from Super Walmart on Brooks, has a huge inventory of new and used cars and trucks. Visit LithiaFordMissoula.com for more information. Search new and used inventory, financing specials, and get yourself into Lithia Ford today. Lithia Ford is an official sponsor of the Montana Grizzlies and Tutel Nuanez's Montana Football Hour. Alpine Touch has been part of the fabric of Montana for more than 60 years. Decades ago, Russell Street started selling his Touch of Magic in whitefish. Years later, Alpine Touch's all-purpose seasoning remains a favorite. It's tailgating season, and there's no better way to spice up your grill before a Grizz game than with Alpine Touch. Go to alpinetouch.com now and use the checkout code ESPN10 for a 10% discount on your order. Alpine Touch is here to keep your mouth watering all football season. Alpine Touch, Montana's special spice. The Polaris Factory Authorized Clearance is here. The world's best-selling off-road lineup is priced to move with financing as low as 3.99% and rebates up to $3,500. Live life wide open in a high-performance RZR. Tackle anything from mountains to mud holes on a legendary Sportsman ATV. Get more done with a hard-working Ranger, or take on any task or trail in a versatile Polaris General. The best deals of the year are happening now. See Polaris.com or your Polaris dealer for rebates up to $3,500 and financing as low as 3.99% APR for 36 months during the Polaris Factory Authorized Clearance. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula and Highway 83 in Sealy. Kurtz Polaris is now showcasing all of the new 2020 Polaris off-road vehicles to be the first to get a great deal on brand new state-of-the-art Polaris vehicles at Kurtz Polaris. Online at kurtzpolaris.com. Rebates valid in U.S. through 10/31/19 on new 2015 through 2019 vehicles. Financing offer valid on 2015s through 2020s, subject to credit approval. Offers vary by model. See dealer for details. Always wear a helmet. Never drink and ride. Hey folks, Ryan Tutel here, and I'm with Josh from the Advocates Injury Attorneys. Josh, if our listeners have been injured in an accident, how can you help?
We're here to help you after a car accident by negotiating with insurance companies, recovering lost wages if you have any, and even getting you into a rental car if you need one. Call us today for a free consultation, and we'll get started helping you right away.
If you need help, get a hold of the Advocates. Call Josh at 640-4444 or online at montanaadvocates.com. You deserve an advocate. Are you interested in putting solar panels on your roof? Do you want the latest on Montana's renewable energy policies? The Montana Renewable Energy Association is a leading voice for renewable energy education and advocacy in Montana. From community-based clean energy events to advocating at the Montana legislature, they work to ensure Montana's future is powered by the sun, wind, and earth. Find out more about MREA and join as a member by visiting montanarenewables.org or calling 406-214-9405.
Donald Rivard Jr. is a disabled veteran of the U.S. Army living in beautiful Florence, Montana. Don needs the help of his community to offset the cost of a kidney transplant he will be having soon. Montana Branded is hosting a raffle now through October 17th with tons of great prizes to help Don during this time. Purchase a raffle ticket for a chance at prizes like half a hog, a custom log bench, and more. Contact Cynthia at 360-742-7747 or search Don Rivard Kidney Transplant on Facebook to help today.
Tutel and Nuanez on 102.9 ESPN Radio for Missoula.
You know what happened?
Standing there by the window.
What happened at the prep level across the state of Montana? Let's get into it. It's Tutel and Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio.
On your nervous mind.
We are broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy, online at kurtzpolaris.com. Coming up, top of the hour, 5 o'clock, Will Dissly, Seattle Seahawks tight end. Looking forward to talking with him as he had yet another outstanding performance on Thursday night as Seattle getting ready for their game this week. Coulter, want to remind everybody, we're on Instagram now. Oh, look out. At 1029 ESPN, the Instagram handle, the same as our Twitter handle. You can also check us out, Coulter and I, on Twitter, at Gus Tutel and at Skyline Sports MT. And you can go check all of that out on the social meds, as the kids say. Are they still saying that, or are they still shortening it like that?
I guess.
Okay.
I don't know what any of these kids are doing these days.
I'm nothing if not hip, Coulter. It is the Montana Football Hour presented by Lithia Ford. Let's get into some high school stuff. This is our Prep Extra segment presented by Farmers State Bank, your Montana bank since 1907. And Coulter at the AA level, Billings West and Butte, they just can't be stopped. 5-0 now for Billings West after a bye week, 6-0 for the Butte Bulldogs.
Yeah, Josh Urbacher threw for 338 yards, 4 touchdowns, and a 33-14 win over Billings Senior for Billings West. And Tommy Block continues to be the front runner for MVP of the Class AA level. He had 17 carries for 168 yards and scored a couple touchdowns on the ground. Butte trounced Helena Capital 56-38, and Butte 6-0 for the first time since 1991.
I mean, to score 56 points on Helena Capital. I mean, Helena Capital is a good team. And traditionally a good defensive club. And that is, I mean, Tommy Malott, man, if you haven't seen this kid play, he's a real deal, man. He's an outstanding player.
He's one of the first 4-year stars that Butte High School is going to have in the modern generation. He broke in the starting lineup midway through his freshman year, and he's got a ton of experience. So it'll be fascinating to see what Montana State decides to do with him, because I think they're projecting him as maybe a safety or a receiver, but if his senior year is any indication, he's a dang good quarterback. Around the rest of AA, Missoula Sentinel one step closer winning the city championship. They had a 35-7 rout of Big Sky. Dayton Bay, he's been incredibly accurate this year. He's had a couple 23 for 25s. He was 21 of 26 in this game, 176 yards and 2 scores. Jackson Lee ran for 146 yards and 3 touchdowns. So Sentinel marches on.
When Sentinel plays Hellgate, that will be for the city championship.
It will be, because Hellgate beat Missoula Big Sky as well. And but Hellgate, they did lose this last weekend. Kalispell Glacier posted a 35-28 victory. The other result, Bozeman seems to be back on track after losing to Big Sky. They had a 48-14 win over CMR. Asher Croy scored 3 touchdowns. Kenneth Iden scored a touchdown. Actually, he ran for 2 more scores, and he also had 2 sacks. So Bozeman back on track. I think they've won 3 straight now since that loss to Missoula Big Sky. At the Class A level, Billings Central went 33-0 against Laurel, so that's a big win for the defending state champions. Number 5, Frenchtown, they rolled to a 42-0 win. Senior Jace Kluswich had a pair of touchdowns as well as rushing touchdowns as well as an 80-yard receiving touchdown. And then at the Class B level, Missoula Loyola won 42-8 over Anaconda. So the Rams now 4-2. The 2 losses to the top 2 teams in the state. So Loyola continues to gain traction after sort of a tough start with a tough schedule early on in their season.
Very good. Coulter, thank you very much. Sir, Prep Extra segment is brought to us by the Farmers State Bank. Farmers State Bank, your Montana bank since 1907. We'll take a quick break. Going to get out early so we can get back in time. Will Dissly, Seattle Seahawks tight end, going to join us live at the top of the hour. So we will take a quick break, stick around, hear from a guy who's on. I mean, he is having, it's early, 5 games in, a Pro Bowl season. I mean, he's a Pro Bowl tight end in the NFC as of right now. There's no question about that. From Bozeman, Montana, Bozeman High School, Will Dissly, all the way to the Seattle Seahawks. Look forward to talking with him right after this. Hey, at the Silver Slipper, it's all about great food, tasty beverages, and their urge to have a good time. Whether you're looking for an affordable meal or a late-night game of poker, the Silver Slipper has what you're looking for. Right now, Silver Slipper is your football headquarters with a free shuttle to every Grizz home game, 56 televisions to watch sports on, drink specials every single day, full liquor store, Tarantino's Pizzeria, and the friendliest staff in town. Silver Slipper has all you need to watch your favorite games. Visit online, thesilverslipperlounge.com for more info. Stop by today and see why the Silver Slipper is one of Montana's best-kept secrets across the street from Super Walmart on Brooks.
It's a rite of passage, that first bank account. Explore the great options for your young adult with a visit to Farmers State Bank, online at farmersebank.com, or in person at any of our 9 locations in western Montana. Our checking and savings accounts are designed to fit any lifestyle and budget, with the flexibility, innovations, and security today's consumers demand. Start out right with Farmers State Bank, your Montana bank since 1907. Member FDIC.
Hey folks, Ryan Tutel here, and I'm with Josh of the Advocates Injury Attorneys. Josh, what are people left dealing with after an accident?
Well, quite a few things, actually. We see people that are in pain, they still need to get to work, they need to raise their kids, and now they have to take time to go see doctors and other healthcare providers. They're frustrated with working with the insurance companies and getting the runaround. We'll take on the burden of dealing with the insurance companies so you can get the best settlement possible and get back to your life.
Find your advocate online at montanaadvocates.com. There are a lot of lawyers. You deserve an advocate.
If you're looking for a charming neighborhood hideaway, come into Katie O'Keefe's. Located in the corner of the Stevens Center, Katie's has an inviting atmosphere with ample parking in a location that's easy to get to and hard not to love. With drink specials every night of the week, including Tequila Tuesdays and Whiskey Wednesdays, offering $3 premium cocktails. Katie O'Keefe's is the welcoming, warm hangout you've been looking for. Come into Katie O'Keefe's, where the drinks are always cold and the people are always friendly.
This is Mike Nugent with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. Berkshire Hathaway provides Western Montana with full-time real estate professionals for you whenever you need us. Our reputation as the state's most knowledgeable and available real estate group has helped build unmatched trust in the Garden City and statewide. If you have been thinking of making a real estate move in the short or long term, give me a call. No pressure, no expectations. Just professional opinions and service at whatever pace you are comfortable with. Give me, Mike Nugent, a call today, 531-1802. And remember, every question is good to ask.
Hi, this is Michael Legg, Artistic Director at Montana Repertory Theater. If you loved our season opener, Go Please Go, or even if you missed it but still want to see the rest of the season, you're in luck. Season ticket packages are still on sale for just $70. That's $70 for 3 more innovative and exciting shows, including our production of War of the Worlds in January. Go to montanarep.com to get your tickets today.
If you are hurt or disabled, you may be entitled to benefits from an insurance company or Social Security. I'm Chris Helmer, an attorney at Clark Fork Law Offices. Our Missoula firm specializes in worker compensation, personal injury, and Social Security disability. There are many unknowns when injured or disabled. The other side is fighting hard. You should too. Call Clark Fork Law at 728-0168 for a free consultation or visit clarkforklaw.com. Again, 728-0168.
ESPN Radio for Western Montana, KKVU HD3 Stevensville, and 102.9 FM on K275BS Missoula. ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
Good afternoon. Ryan Tutel, Colton Newlongs, 102.9 ESPN Sports Center. Montana and Montana State continued rolling over the weekend, each staying undefeated against FCS opponents as the season has reached its midpoint. The Grizz overcame a 17-0 deficit to Avalanche Idaho State, going on a 59-3 run, snapping a 59-20 homecoming victory with authority. Montana senior quarterback Dalton Snead threw for 397 yards and 2 scores, while rushing for a team-high 67 yards and 2 more touchdowns. He is once again the Big Sky Conference Offensive Player of the Week. The number 8 Grizz scored 24 unanswered points in the second quarter to take a touchdown lead into halftime. They gave up a second-half field goal and then scored 35 more to finish the game. Samari Torre had a career day, hauling in 8 catches for 188 yards and a touchdown. Sammy Akem had 8 of his 10 catches for 104 of his 135 total yards in the second quarter alone to spark the comeback. enters its bye week with a 5-1 record that includes 5 straight wins over like opponents.
MSU's 5th straight victory did not come so easily, but the 6th-ranked Bobcats emerged with a 34-28 overtime win at Cal Poly nonetheless. MSU built a 28-7 lead despite only possessing the ball for 21 minutes and change, only to see the Mustangs score 3 fourth-quarter touchdowns to force OT. In the extra period, Cal Poly missed a field goal on the first possession, and MSU senior Travis Johnson ripped off a game-winning touchdown. Montana.
The ESPN Sports Center is presented by Clark Fork Law.
Luke Wilson wide to the far side. Disley now tight end on the right side. Russell looking left. Going to throw to the end zone. He's got Disley back in the end zone. He has got it. Touchdown. Yards out.
So there you go. It is time. It's Tutel Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio, broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy. And we head into hour number 2 on the Rangich Brothers RV phone line, where we are joined by the tight end of the Seattle Seahawks, former Washington Husky, but most importantly, the former Bozeman Hawk, for crying out loud, Will Disley, joining us. Will, thanks so much for being with us. How are you?
Good, man. Go Hawks for sure.
Yeah, I mean, they had a nice win over the weekend, so, throwing it back to the guys there at the high school level. Well, let's start with the present. You're coming off an outstanding game again, leading the Seahawks and receiving again 4 receptions, 81 yards. What's it been like for you this season, coming off a very tough injury, as we know, last year, to just be in the mix and then all of a sudden emerging as one of the most productive weapons in this offense?
Yeah, no, I'm just blessed to be a part of it, really. It was super bummed last year to go down, and just set my mindset to come back and be a part of it this year, and try and help win games this year. But yeah, I'm just excited for the team, the guys. We're all clicking and playing at a really high level right now, and we're just gonna look forward to keeping it going, I guess.
Well, hey, Colter Nuanez here. Thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. NFL teams, there's such a variable level of cultures across the NFL, but it seems like the Seahawks have one of the most tried and true and strongest cultures in the league. What's it like playing for Pete Carroll, and what's this experience been like for you being a Seattle Seahawk?
Yeah, Coach Carroll's a ton of fun, man. He's got so much energy. You think you just started out in this league, and the way he's bouncing around, making jokes at practice, but super serious and gets the work done when we need to, and super focused, super positive guy, and I'm fortunate to play for him, and hopefully can play for him for a really long time.
Seahawks tight end Will Disley joining us. Seattle 4-1 on the season, coming off a big win over Los Angeles on Thursday, and you get that huge win. It's been 3 straight that the Rams had won against you up until this game, and then you get a huge win. How big is it to go not just a win in division, but especially against the Rams, who are obviously coming off a Super Bowl appearance?
Yeah, no doubt. Any win in the NFL is a big win, and the most important one's the next one. But super fun night. The 12s are out in force, and Thursday primetime game. It was definitely a lot of fun. We had the green on, and we're out in force, but just thankful to get that win, and like I said, the most important one's the next one.
Guys hate playing on Thursday, I know, but if there's a silver lining, it's that it's a sort of quasi bye. You get 10 days off, and the more so because your next opponent is Cleveland, who's playing tonight. How big an advantage is it to have 4 days off before your next opponent is actually playing, and now you get to sit back and watch Cleveland?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It was kind of like a mini bye, and I was able to spend some time with the family over the weekend. I was actually kind of bummed the Hawks were on the road, but glad they got the win. But body's feeling good, everyone's resting up, and hopefully we can take advantage of this 10-day break here and get prepared for a good opponent in Cleveland.
The NFL is such a crazy league with all the player movement and how your job can just go away in such a blink of an eye, but so much of it's about fit. And it seems as if you found the perfect fit in Seattle. Talk about that element of it. What's it like playing with Russell Wilson, and how have you been able to find the niche that you have so far this season?
Well, Russ is playing at an extremely high level right now. It's really fun to be a part of, but I'm just trying to do my job, be in the right spot at the right time for him, and try and make plays for him. But it makes it really easy when you have a guy like Russ, slinging the rock like he is. So I'm just gonna keep trying to get in the playbook and be in the right place at the right time, and just try and do anything I can to help us win.
Will Dissly joining us, at tight end for the Seattle Seahawks, and that's the second Hawks team that he played for. He played for Bozeman, from Bozeman, Montana. And let's take you back a little bit, Will, to your time in Bozeman. You're a great player, obviously, there, but what was it like to go from there to the University of Washington? I mean, it's different for folks when we're from Montana, and you go, okay, going to go to the Pac-12 and play ball. What was that like?
Yeah, no doubt, and it was definitely a challenge. Choosing to leave home. Obviously, my brother Nick played for the Cats there, played basketball, but so I definitely was some ties trying to stay home and play for the Cats, and just felt like I needed to get out and try and experience and see what I can do at the next level, and was fortunate to have Peterson take me. I was committed to Boise, and went over to Washington, and didn't have the perfect story, but had a ton of fun, won some games, and still playing ball, so definitely lucked out on that front.
So much of getting to the highest level of any sport is just the confidence you have to have in yourself. What's kept you going? What's kept you driven and giving you the sense of belief to get to this point?
Definitely my family. I think, there was definitely doubts, playing in college and switching positions and, the ups and downs that go with, college and classwork. And but they were my rock, man. I had two older brothers, and they were just leading me and, encouraging me every time I could. And so I definitely give a lot of credit to them for where I'm at now.
Well, we appreciate you being with us. We'll get you out of here on this. Being a Montana guy, you go now, you're in Seattle, obviously a major market, doing one of the highest profile jobs that there is to do. What's it been like for you to go from, a kid from Bozeman, Montana, to being a Seattle Seahawk and all the notoriety that comes with it, especially the way you've been playing?
Yeah, I think that's the beauty of being from where I'm from. I go back and, people just treat you like a normal guy. So I definitely don't feel it at all, and I'm just trying to, keep improving and keep getting better and try not to focus on that as much. But, definitely enjoy being a Seahawk. Hopefully can be one for a really long time.
Well, we certainly appreciate it. It's been a blast to watch you play and continue to do what you're doing professionally, being from Montana. I want you to know, we were efforting you before the touchdowns, okay? We've been trying to get you before all that, okay? So you've been on our radar a long time. We look forward to keeping up with you, okay?
Yeah, appreciate you guys getting me on. Thanks a lot.
You got it. Will Dissly, Seattle Seahawks tight end, and I don't know, sort of like talking to a Montanan.
Oh, yeah, Will Dissly's always been the bad. I was still working in the newspaper in Bozeman when those guys won the state championship, and Bozeman's been a perennial power this decade, but it's easy to forget.
Mm-hmm.
Bozeman did not win a state championship from the opening of Bozeman Senior High School in 1917 until 2010.
Right.
And then when Tanner Roderick and that class of guys broke through and won a state title, I think they've won 4 since this recent run, the second being Will Dissly. But that was almost equally as important as the first breakthrough because they had to prove they could do it again without Roderick, who, in my opinion, is one of the great high school players ever. He didn't have the career that he would have wanted because he was so filled with – you can't say bad choice, but he went to Nevada and then Chris Ault retired, and that really messed up his career. And then he came to Montana State, and he was in the quarterback battle, and then he eventually loses out to Dakota Prukop, but he's such a great athlete, they moved him to receiver. But then he got crushed his second game, and that just sent him into a spiral of never being able to really get healthy. He had shoulder, hand, head, everything, and it was unfortunate. But that class of guys, Will Dissly's class of guys that included Will Wire, who ended up playing for a brief moment for the University of Montana, Grant Collins, went on to be a 4-year starter for Montana State. Those guys were the guys that proved that Bozeman could do it again, that it wasn't just Tanner Roderick leading them to a state title. And it was an important moment for Bozeman High School, and Will Dissly was a key factor. And then he mentioned, kind of the turmoil because he was committed to Boise State, and I thought that was a great fit for him. He's Mountain West type guy. And then coming out of high school, he was a Mountain West type guy. He wasn't quite he didn't quite have the foot speed maybe to play in the Pac-12 yet. But when Chris Peterson moved to Washington, they took a chance on him, and he sort of toiled on the defensive line because, how could you not when you got Danny Shelton and Vita Vea and Greg Jenkins and, first-round draft picks playing in front of you. One day in practice, though, he's just messing around, and Chris Peterson sees him catch a ball. He's like, whoa, you got pretty good hands for a D lineman. And Will Dissly's like, well, don't you remember, Coach? I had like 1,000 yards receiving my senior year of high school. oh, well, maybe we'll try you out there. And then, kind of incrementally worked his way in and then kind of broke out when Washington played Montana. He caught one, maybe even two touchdowns.
Two touchdowns in that game, yeah.
And I don't know if he had ever even caught a pass in a game before that. And then went on to then have a great senior year where I think he caught 27, 28 balls. And then he keeps working, gets faster, maintains the strength. Great performance at the Pro Day. And then, boom, he's a fourth-round draft pick. And now seems as if he has one of the best fits in the whole league. Because the one thing that Russell Wilson's never had, they wanted Jimmy Graham to be this guy, but Jimmy Graham can never stay healthy. Russell Wilson's never had that red zone tight end type guy. Now he does. And Will Dissly's the guy that's on the receiving end of all these touchdowns. It's a great story for a Montana guy to rise to this level so quickly.
Well, I watch every Seattle Seahawks game. I love football, so that's what I do. But also, since we are now carrying all the Seahawks games, and it's sometimes a guy who's like kind of under the radar pops up, has a big week, maybe a big couple weeks, and you go, okay, well, every game that he has been a healthy for, Will Dissly has been outstanding in, and he is, I'm telling you right now, so good at playing tight end in the NFL because he does it all. He blocks. He gets open. He finds space. He's got great hands, like you said, and he's probably even a better fit for Russell Wilson as a tight end than even Jimmy Graham was. Now, people think that Jimmy Graham was not as good as he was when he was in Seattle. It took them a while to get on the same page. He obviously had the horrendous injury. He scored the second most touchdowns in the NFL his last year when he was with the Seahawks, or his last full year. So he was outstanding, but he was so used to 3 steps and bang, it's out from Drew Brees, not the running, question mark, the figure eights in the backfield that Russell Wilson is. And Will Dissly just has a certain ease about finding the soft spot, a certain sense about it, and his ability to block. It's outstanding. And as long as he can stay healthy, I think he's going to be very good in this offense for a long time. It is Tutel Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio, SWX Montana Television. Now, this is a new thing that we're doing now, which I'm excited about this. Now, you know that we got Michael Sean Dugar every Friday heading into a weekend to talk about the Seahawks. He covers the Seahawks for The Athletic. Every Monday now, what we want to do is bookend our Seahawks coverage with another reporter, Greg Bell, who covers the Seattle Seahawks for the Tacoma News Tribune. And Greg Bell has been doing this for a long time, and so he's going to join us, or he joined you earlier today. I was obviously on hole 63 at Canyon River. But his conversation with you just about this team right now, where you're at, and then looking ahead to the Cleveland Browns in a week from now, right?
And Greg will give us a little bit different flavor than Michael Sean Dugar, because Michael Sean Dugar is doing a lot of features. He's a lot of commentaries, an entertaining guy. He's got a great podcast. Whereas Greg Bell's kind of your nuts and bolts reporter who's going to give you some information. But he's also covered the Seahawks now for, I think he said 12 years. Yeah. So a veteran guy who's been on the beat for a while, too. So he has a fundamental understanding of the inner workings. He's covered every game of the Pete Carroll era. So I think that gives him a very distinct voice when it comes to analyzing this stuff.
And before, right? To contrast that, both the year of Jim Mora Jr. and then even before that, obviously, with Holmgren. So here you go. Conversation with Coulter with Greg Bell from the Tacoma News Tribune, our new Monday Seahawks segment.
Welcome in Greg Bell to the show. He's the beat writer for the Tacoma News Tribune, covering the Seattle Seahawks. The Seahawks, big victory last week to move to 4-1, 30-29 over the Rams on Thursday Night Football in Seattle. And Greg, just start there. What did you think of last week's game? What did you think of Seattle's ability to just overcome and persevere in that matchup?
Well, it was wildly entertaining. One of the better games I've covered, and I started doing this in 2002. One of the better games I've covered in Seattle, certainly in a regular season. How back and forth it was, how it looked inevitable that the Rams are going to win the game at the end, how one of the best kickers in the world missed from a relatively makeable distance for him, 44 yards, and Tyler Lockett's toe tap inside the sideline of the end zone for a touchdown catch. Chris Carson losing the ball in the lights and then juggling it and catching it for what proved to be the winning score. Russell Wilson again being darn near perfect. He's had the month he's had so far this season, I think, is the best I've seen him look in his career. All of that, and they win by 1 point over a team that has just beaten them the last couple of years, 3 years in a row in the series, 6 out of 8 overall. And that's the team they have to beat to win the division. Now, the 49ers, of course, are 3-0 entering tonight's game. But they have to beat the Rams to win the division, and to have home games in the playoffs, you got to win the division. And that's what they need to get as deep to the playoffs and to a Super Bowl. They want to, so they took a first step for sure on Thursday night in one of the more thrilling ways you're going to see.
You mentioned you've covered the Seahawks for 12 years now, so that's the duration of the Pete Carroll era and maybe even a little bit beyond that. But we've seen the rise of Pete Carroll and the Legion of Boom and the great back-to-back seasons, including a Super Bowl season. And then I think broadly a lot of people thought, when Seattle paid Russell Wilson, that they would have a downgrade in talent across the board, and they have had to get rid of so many big-name guys. But here they are at 4-1. So how have they been able to do it in your eyes? I mean, how have they been able to not have all the brand-name players like they used to have, Richard Sherman and Cam Chancellor and Earl Thomas and all those guys, but still be able to produce at such a high level like they have so far this year?
Well, they're starting here defensively, and the jury's still out there. And this team is 4-1, but 3 of those wins are against teams that were winless when they played them. The Steelers have since won over Cincinnati, but they won by 1 point over a winless Cincinnati team, 2 points on the road without Ben Roethlisberger in Pittsburgh, who ended up winless until they beat Cincinnati last week. They lost by it was really much more than a 33-27 loss at home to Teddy Bridgewater when Drew Brees was hurt with the Saints.
Right.
So they are not a finished product, and they're certainly not. Yes, they're 4-1 for the first time since 2013, but this is not a 2013 vintage defense. They are still not totally whole in the pass rush. They've got Ziggy Ansah, they've got Jadeveon Clowney, but they aren't producing yet. And they will tell you, and the coaches will tell you, they are somewhat in their preseason because they both missed the entire offseason and preseason. And after 1 month of practicing and 4 games, they're really in what would be late August mode usually. You would think will get better in November than they were in September, and I think you can say that for this entire team. They have a bunch of guys like they did in 2011 and 12 with chips on their shoulders, guys that were doubted or overlooked or changing positions. Trey Flowers, for instance, was a college safety. Now they're starting corner. Shaquille Griffin was doubted last year for having a down year. He's having a rebound season this year. Chris Carson was a 7th-round pick who had injury issues and only 2 years of major college football at Oklahoma State after transferring from junior college. That the team has somewhat of the same characteristics in rebuilding like that, but they are so unproven to see where they're going to end up in November. I happen to think they're going to be a better team in November and December than they are, much better than they are right now. We'll see if the results bear that out.
Pete Carroll, he's been famously quoted always as saying, we're not going to win the game in the first quarter, we're not going to win the game in the second quarter, we're not going to win the game in the third quarter, we're going to win the game in the fourth quarter. What do you think of just that philosophy, and how much does that cater to the fact that the Seahawks seem to play more thrilling games than maybe anybody in the entire NFL?
Well, it is everything about finishing and how you finish. They were particularly pleased Thursday night with the 7-minute drive that ended with a touchdown. That's the kind of finishing they want to have in the fourth quarter. You can certainly lose games in the first quarter, though. And the reason they play a lot of tight games is they are relying on their defense and their running game, which tends to shorten games, longer possessions, field position becomes important, and they tend to play that kind of way all the way into the fourth quarter. And it's not a wide open, huge scoring spreads with wide open play. It's not how they want to play. When they want to play, the games are shorter, tend to be lower scoring, and then lower scoring meaning closer. So they have a proven quarterback, the most important player at the most important position on the team and in the game, happens to be one of the best ones in the league. That's why they win in the fourth quarter. They have a guy who's done it, who has a Super Bowl ring, has a $140 million contract, a 6-time Pro Bowler, the winningest quarterback in the NFL through 7 seasons, who doesn't believe he's ever out of a game. He's done a lot of things in his Seahawks career that have proven to himself and to the team he can come back from anything. 28 fourth quarter and overtime comebacks, I think the number is now. So they have the best player currently playing in the league at the most important position, which is why they win close games in the fourth quarter.
Greg Bell from the Tacoma News-Tribune joining us on the Rankish Brothers RV phone line. I want to stay right there, Greg. A couple years back, the Seahawks, their most glaring weakness was the offensive line, and it seems like they've fortified that offensive line. But in turn, Russell Wilson's maturation and continued just never say die attitude seems to have continued as well. And his career, the way it's evolved from being a third-round draft pick, not getting paid much money, to then, a guy that has won, like you said, more games than any other quarterback in the league over the last 7 years. How do those two things go hand in hand, and do you feel like Russell Wilson is a bona fide MVP candidate early on here in this season?
Well, we'll see. They've only played 5 games. I mean, Tom Brady tends to show up in December and January for MVP-type performances. What the Seahawks were very fortunate and at their own skill of drafting Russell Wilson in the third round, but Russell Wilson's ability right away from game one of his rookie year, he was supernaturally poised and mature for his age and experience in the NFL. But what his success right away allowed them to do was build a team around him with a quarterback still on his rookie deal. For years to come, they could sign Michael Bennett and Cliff Averill and even take a flyer on Percy Harvin. And they could afford to do that because they had a quarterback at rock bottom price. Jared Goff and the Rams were similar up until Goff signed his extension last month. But Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs are currently in the same situation. Teams like that have a quarterback that good that soon can build and pay for premium players at other positions, pass rushers, wide receivers, and win with a quarterback at minimum salary. It's a huge advantage in the NFL. As soon as a quarterback's done with his rookie deal, even if he's mediocre, he's going to get Kirk Cousins $80-some million guaranteed.
No doubt.
And that is when teams don't win anymore. And Minnesota can talk about that right now. But teams that have a quarterback like Mahomes, like Wilson was under his first contract, like Jared Goff, Carson Wentz in Philadelphia, tend to go to Super Bowls if the quarterbacks are that good that soon. It allows teams to build around them. And that's really what the Seahawks did. They built a team around their quarterback on a rookie contract and won a Super Bowl during that time and went to another one, should have won a second one. When they look back at their era here, whenever Russell Wilson goes away in 10 years or whatever, he says he's going to play until he's 45. Whenever it ends, they will look back and realize they should have had more than one Super Bowl win. And I'm not saying they're not going to the Super Bowl, or they are this year, but they should have won that second one, of course, at the 1-yard line in Arizona. But that was the window, a quarterback on his rookie deal that you can build teams around. Now they're trying to start over with the chip-on-the-shoulder guys I talked about, still with their franchise quarterback, but now he's getting $140 million, which is why you have to trade Frank Clark and do the moves that they've made. So the economics and the salary cap of the NFL, if you can get a quarterback to perform that well early in his career, you're going to end up in Super Bowls and build a stronger team around him.
Certainly a new frontier in the NFL, because it used to be you tried to draft and develop a guy and or sign a guy, and now, like you said, if you can draft that guy and have him develop rapidly, changes the entire landscape. Greg Bell joining us. He's the beat writer for the Seattle Seahawks for the Tacoma News-Tribune. And, Greg, you're on the radio in Montana across the state, so we got to ask you about Montana's favorite son right now, Will Dissly. Talk about.
I know. I'm surprised it took you this long to ask you about. I thought that was the first question.
No doubt. Well, I covered Will Dissly in high school. He's a tremendous player, and I know that there was a lot of question whether he'd be able to make it when he went to the University of Washington as a defensive lineman. But when he made the switch to offense, it seemed like he really transformed into now. Here he is in his second year with the Seahawks, finally healthy. And, I mean, he's a bona fide real deal tight end in the NFL. So what has been your early impressions of Will Dissly here in his second year?
Well, his story, Chris Peterson, first of all, he was going to go to Boise State.
Right.
And then Chris Peterson left to go to Washington, so we followed him to Washington to be a defensive lineman. I don't have to tell Montanans the story, but those who might not know, he was messing around at a Heart of Dallas Bowl practice his sophomore season, just screwing around catching passes before the practice began. And Chris Peterson saw him doing that, catching balls with his hands way out from his body, looking like a receiver. And he said, whoa, what is this? You're a defensive tackle. Washington basically has defensive tackles with outside linebackers as their rush ends. He was basically a defensive tackle catching passes like a wide receiver. And Chris Peterson said, we're going to put some plays in for you at tight end to utilize these hands. And he did. And by the end of the following season, he was a full-time tight end wearing number 98. Beating Utah and winning big games with big catches. Well, he comes to the Seahawks last year in the preseason, being a fifth-round pick. They thought they had a blocking tight end. They had no idea he would be an NFL-caliber receiver down the field. And in training camp, right away, it became obvious to Russell Wilson how good Disley was catching the ball. And then in the first game of his career in Denver, he goes for 105 yards, touchdown, the most yards by a rookie tight end in team history. And it was a crazy debut. Down the field, wide open, finding zone holes in the zone coverage of the Broncos. And Wilson couldn't believe how much he could trust the guy that soon in his career. You know, they have this unnatural trust now. Of course, he had the patellar rupture in his knee, his fourth game last year in Arizona that ended his season. That alone is a tremendous story for him. A lot of people don't come back from that injury in football. It's not that an ACL tear is easy, but it's more routine and customary than this one.
Mm-hmm.
Ruptured patellar tendon in the knee. Some guys never are the same. And he was told by the medical staff of the Seahawks that it might take a year and a half, and it might take longer than you feel like it should, and it'll be frustrating. Well, he was back on the field in 10 and a half months. And from the very first game of this season has been productive again, and is now the number one tight end, so much so the Seahawks don't even miss Ed Dixon, the veteran tight end that's on injured reserve. People don't even know he's still on the team. And he's eligible potentially to come back here in a couple weeks. But Will Disley's their number one tight end. And the trust that Wilson and Disley have for the fact he's played 9 games in his NFL career, and more than that, the fact he's a former college defensive lineman, it's very unnatural that he's that good that soon, and Wilson's rewarding with trust and with balls.
Seattle Seahawks taking on the Cleveland Browns this week. What are some things to watch for this week, and what do you think just the overall health of the roster is right now, Greg?
Well, that's the big advantage the Seahawks have in this game. It's unusual, you can say, that a West Coast team flying back to the Eastern time zone for a 10 a.m. Sunday kickoff has an advantage, but the Seahawks have now been off for 3 days, full days. They were scattered all over the country. Russell Wilson went to New York for a Yankee game. Guys were going back to their high schools. It was a complete get-out-of-jail-free weekend. And now the Browns play tonight at San Francisco, and they won't get home till Tuesday morning Cleveland time. So the rest factor, the health factor, the team should benefit Seattle. DJ Fluker's the only starter who had an injury coming out of the Rams game, a hamstring, that he may not play on Sunday. And if he doesn't, they found an accidental starting right guard in Jamarco Jones, the backup tackle that they drafted from Ohio State last year, held his own against Aaron Donald in emergency work, and he could be and would be the starting right guard if DJ Fluker can't play on Sunday in Cleveland. I think the Browns will be up, being back home, they'll be up for the game, but certainly in terms of time off and rest and travel, the Seahawks have an advantage here.
Greg Bell, Seattle Seahawks beat writer for the Tacoma News-Tribune. This has been great, Greg. Thanks so much for being with us. Tell people, how can they find your work?
I appreciate that. It's at thenewstribune.com online and on Twitter at GBellSeattle. All my stories and all my Seahawks coverage is there. Thank you.
Love it. Big Seahawks country out here, especially with one of Montana's own starring for the Hawks. Seattle takes on Cleveland this Sunday. Greg Bell, Tacoma News-Tribune. Thanks so much for joining us, Greg.
Thank you, guys.
There you go. Greg Bell. Good stuff from him. Great stories. And obviously a tremendous amount of insight as well for this. And you know where I'm at with the Cleveland Browns. I'm into it. Can't wait for this game tonight, which I expect Cleveland to win. Next Sunday, not so much. The short week, relatively short week, but more the longer break for Seattle, I think comes into big play. And we'll get to that game, obviously, throughout the week. After tonight, we'll see what happens, in San Francisco. But Seattle at 4-1, looking very good. And when he said at the beginning that he thinks Russell Wilson in this first quarter of the season is playing the best of his career, I have to agree. I mean, what the game on Thursday was as vintage Russell Wilson as you could possibly have. And I know we talked about this on Friday, watching it, but he's miraculous, man, running around. I watched the Ravens-Steelers game Sunday, Coulter, and, Lamar Jackson is phenomenal, man. I love Lamar Jackson. I know he's come back to earth the last couple of weeks, but I think he's great. But when he got rushed in the pocket, he moves around. He's got great movement within the pocket, but he also on a couple times moved into tacklers. Now, he was good enough and fast enough to kind of get away, but his initial movement, he just felt kind of pressure, and it was coming at a couple different angles. Russell Wilson
knows without seeing where everybody is all the time that's coming after him. It's borderline miraculous how he has the sense that he has, not just of the pocket, but where and how to move up. Guys move up in the pocket because they've been taught to, because they know that that's what you do and they get good at it. But there's only a handful of guys that really feel it coming and know where they all are, and he just always gets out of it and then makes plays with it. It's amazing. He's as good as it gets.
If the season ended today, it'd probably be the MVP, right?
I mean, after yesterday with Patrick Mahomes, maybe. I mean, Patrick Mahomes was probably in that driver's seat again, but I mean, they're 4-1. They just beat the Rams, and it's him doing it. It's impressive. It's Tutel Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. We'll take a quick break. On the other side, we'll get around the Big Sky. We'll hear from the Big Sky Conference Offensive Player of the Week, Dalton Sneed, and take a look at what happened elsewhere around the conference in an eventful weekend of Big Sky football. Hey, I've been telling you about this a little bit. I'm going to tell you about it a little bit more. Shine Auto Detailing, okay? It's online at MissoulaAutoDetailing.com. You go to MissoulaAutoDetailing.com, and it is Shine Auto Detailing that you're going to get to. You can also just Google it. It's that easy. They got a winter car prep special. You ready for this? Schedule a deluxe detail and get a free headlight restoration to make your winter driving more safe. That's a $75 value, free, okay? What's included in a deluxe detail? Well, you get the interior and the exterior of the car spotless, of course. I mean, that's what a detail is. They're going to do that. They also, though, will clay bar the exterior and apply ceramic coating to protect your car from winter salts and sand. How about that? People think about detailing your car. Oh, okay, you just want to make it look pretty and everything like that. It's just going to get, dirt again on it as we head into fall and winter. No. This is a preventative measure to keep your car running and running well, okay? Prices vary by car type and size, so go online and see MissoulaAutoDetailing.com or just Google Auto Detailing in Missoula, and it'll come up there. It's Shine Auto Detailing. They're going to take care of your vehicle, make it look great, but also make it resistant to the harsh winter that is coming. Again, online, MissoulaAutoDetailing.com.
Hi there, it's Les Schwab Tires. We've been helping keep folks safe on the road around here since 1952. That's why you can save up to $152 on a set of 4 select light truck and SUV tires during our fall tire sale. So swing by or book an appointment at leschwab.com. Les Schwab Tires, doing the right thing since 1952. Limited time offer while supplies last. Discount depends on tire size and type. Cannot be combined with other offers. Details at leschwab.com.
On Russell, across from the fairgrounds.
Here in Montana, we are lucky to have huckleberries growing high up in the mountains. Flowco brings them to you at each of our locations across western Montana with Huck Lemonade, Huck Smoothies, and yes, even a scoop of huckleberries on your morning oatmeal. Stop by for yours or go to FlorenceCoffeeCo.com.
The best flavor under the big sky, Florence Coffee Company.
We ate a lot of steaks before we came up with the Montana Club's Private Reserve Cut Angus. It's as good a steak as you're going to get. Our Private Reserve Cut Angus is specially cut for us. And with our custom seasoning, it has a flavor that's absolutely incomparable. We're confident that it will satisfy the most discriminating steak customer for an unrivaled steak experience. Real Montana, real food. The Montana Club on Brooks and North Reserve, Missoula.
Katie O'Keefe's has been a neighborhood favorite in the corner of the Stevens Center for years. But if you haven't been into Katie's lately, come on in and make sure to turn left. The downstairs bar is completely remodeled with one of the biggest, best spaces anywhere in Missoula to watch games, play games, and hang out with all your friends. Katie O'Keefe's is your horse racing simulcast headquarters in Missoula. Come into Katie's and turn left for cribbage, darts, pool, and much, much more. Katie O'Keefe's, where the cocktails are always cold and the people are always friendly.
Get Get ready to sing, dance, and laugh until your cheeks hurt with the interactive, unforgettable Dueling Pianos show, October 19th at the UC Ballroom. Dueling Pianos is a gala benefiting Montana children, and you can help by purchasing tickets at montanahope.org. Guests will enjoy a lively evening of dueling pianos, hors d'oeuvres, silent auctions, and raffles. All proceeds will benefit the Montana Hope Project and Catholic Social Services of Montana. Kids 10 and under are free. Learn more and purchase tickets at montanahope.org.
Hey folks, Ryan Tutel here with Josh from The Advocates. If you've been in a car accident and need help dealing with the insurance company, you should give The Advocates a call.
It doesn't cost anything at all to call, and I'd be happy to talk with you about your situation. You don't want to have to be dealing with contacting the insurance companies and setting up your claim. We can do that for you from start to finish. We'll take the hassle out of the process so you can just focus on getting better.
There you go, folks. If you've been injured in an accident, give Josh a call, 640-4444, or online at montanaadvocates.com. There are a lot of lawyers, but you deserve an advocate.
ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
Good evening, Ryan Tutel, Colton Nuanez. Here's some sports news for you. Montana State continued rolling over the weekend, each staying undefeated against FCS opponents as the season reaches its midpoint. The Grizz were down 17-0 and then went on a 59-3 run to stamp a 59-20 homecoming victory with authority. Montana senior quarterback Dalton Snead threw for 397 yards and 2 scores, while rushing for a team-high 67 yards and 2 more scores. He is the Stats FCS National Offensive Player of the Week. The number 8 Grizzlies scored 24 unanswered points in the second quarter to take a touchdown lead into halftime, gave up a second-half field goal, and then scored 35 more. Amari Torre had a career day, hauling in 8 catches for 188 yards and a score. Sammy Akem had 10 receptions for 135 yards, 8 for 104 in the second quarter alone to spark the comeback for UM. The Grizz enter their bye week with a 5-1 record that includes 5 straight wins over like opponents.
Montana State, not so easy this time around, but the Bobcats were able to emerge with a 34-28 overtime win at Cal Poly. MSU built a 28-7 lead despite only possessing the ball for 21 minutes and change, only to see the Mustangs score 3 fourth-quarter touchdowns to force OT. But in the extra period, Montana State came over the stop, and senior Travis Johnson scored the game-winning touchdown. Montana State 2-0 in Big Sky Conference play.
I mean, you hear that, it's almost like, I have some say in this. It's Tutel Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio, SWX Montana Television. Hi, how are you? Great to be with you. We're broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy, online at kurtzpolaris.com. Of course, spit on myself on statewide TV. Why not? It's that kind of day. I mean, I'm just dragging, Coulter, 100 holes of golf. Well, 97 to be accurate. I don't know. I'm having an out-of-body experience. All my, all my adrenaline or whatever, it's subsided. All the excitement of all those triple bogeys, they're just gone now.
Imagine what it feels like to run a 10K.
You know what's the worst is when you're trying to get all those holes in, you got to jog to and from your ball and greens and stuff like that. This is much harder than what I had anticipated. I'm okay though. It's for the kids, Coulter. I golf for the children.
It's nice of you.
Yeah, for sure. If you would like to listen live, you can do that online, 1029ESPN.com. There you can listen to the stream. It's available thanks to Opportunity Bank, your local bank, your opportunity. Don't forget. In fact, remember, okay? FCS Speculators, a betting podcast. Look, it's all falling apart. You're going full Stu Gotts right here. A betting podcast. It's got a Vegas eye on the Big Sky, and FCS is going to be out on Wednesday, every Wednesday, coming out with a new episode. Last week was a lot of fun. It was episode 2, episode 3 this Wednesday. So check out the FCS Speculators podcast wherever you get your podcast. You go to Tutel Nuanez. Check out our podcasts all over the place, right? Tutel Nuanez podcast. Well, guess what? You get the FCS Speculators podcast as well. Tutel Nuanez podcast brought to us by the Wingate by Wyndham Hotel. Coulter, let's go around the Big Sky Conference. This weekend, the Grizz and the Cats won.
there were also some results that I think were surprising, either in terms of the flat-out winner and loser, or at least how they took place. One of those was in North Dakota, where the Fighting Hawks beat UC Davis 38-32. North Dakota was up
38-36.
What? Yeah, 38-36. Lost by 2, did UC Davis.
Indeed.
The North Dakota was up 14-0 in the first quarter, and then we're up even more than that afterwards. It was 28-14, though, at halftime. UC Davis tried to come all the way back, came close, ends up falling 2 points short. And I'd say it's a surprise. It certainly is a surprise. I mean, UC Davis is a higher-ranked team. Also, though, I just feel like North Dakota is sort of a mystery because of this weird thing that where they're playing a full Big Sky schedule, but they're not in the conference for their games, so they are for everybody else's. But I think it's just an odd matchup for a lot of teams right now.
All-American tight end Wesley Priest caught his third touchdown of the afternoon, and then UC Davis went for 2. And that put them up 36-35 with 2 minutes and 6 seconds to play, but North Dakota executes an 8-play, 36-yard drive, and Brady Leach hits a 46-yard field goal, 57 seconds left to play, and then North Dakota came up with the stop. And so now 3 straight losses for Davis, 4 overall. I dropped them out of my top 25 this week. I mean, they're 2-4, and I mean they're searching right now. I know that they have some injuries, particularly on the offensive line.
It's like you lose to Cal, you lose to NDSU, okay. You lose to Montana at home, especially the way Montana is going right now, okay. But they didn't just lose, man. They got beat down.
Yep.
And then they went on the road, and they could not figure it out against a team that they should be better than.
They should.
Not clear that they are.
The North Dakota State showed a little bit of something that then Montana was able to harness and capitalize on that now I think everybody is going to use against UC Davis. Jake Mayer is a wonderful dissector of defenses. He throws the ball at more angles than any quarterback you'll ever see in this conference or around the country. He's not athletic, and he's only like 5'11".
Right.
Patrick O'Connell told me
double A gap.
Patrick O'Connell told me last week, we heard all the narrative all week about if we blitz this guy, he's going to dice us. So we just decided to blitz him so hard that he can't even get the ball off. And that's what Montana did. They were just in his face. Mm-hmm. Double A gap with your hands in the air.
Yeah.
Can't see over you. You can't move. You can't throw around you. And if you're not winning one-on-ones on the outside, if you're just beating the guys up on the outside, then all of a sudden it's just jailbreak. And Jake Mayer threw 3 picks on Saturday. And North Dakota, they ended up with only 1 sack, but they were in his face with their blitzing style. And so it's just kind of a confluence of events. But you wonder, momentum's such a crazy thing in sports. And when you seize it like UC Davis did a year ago, you can ride that so far. But then when you lose it, how do you get the magic back? And I think that's the key to having a consistent program, especially at the FCS level, where, losing is almost inevitable at the FCS level because of just all the variety of factors. You have to figure out how to bounce back from losses. When you didn't learn that during your momentum streak like UC Davis had last year, I don't think if you really know how to do it. Like year 1 or Dan Hawkins, they were knocking on the door. They're the upstart team. They get that nice win over Eastern, and it's like, okay, we're getting close. But then they finished 5-6. But then last year they rip off 8 straight wins. You don't have to learn how to lose to NDSU and bounce back when you play Montana.
Right.
Lose to Montana, make sure you bounce back against North Dakota. Now they're sort of in a tailspin, and it's definitely, to me, UC Davis this is it. They got to win out, else they're completely out of the playoffs.
Another team that was another game that was surprising, not so much because of the winner, but just because of the way this game went. Weber State at Idaho. Idaho, the ultimate Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, and Weber State wins this game 41-35. I know Idaho scored on the last play of the game to make this, as you said, a backdoor cover for the Vandals.
It was actually with 1 minute and 9 seconds to go, but a 97-yard kick return with 1 minute and 9 seconds to go to help. Weber State was -7, so 7-point favorite, and they lost by 6. So terrible bad beat in the Big Sky.
So here's the good for Weber State. They scored 41 points. A team that does not score very many points did. They had 4 rushing touchdowns by 4 different guys. They also had a passing touchdown from Jake Constantine, and they racked up 223 yards on the ground, which is what they want to do, and frankly what they need to do if they're going to score much in this league. The bad for Weber State is that they gave up 35 points. Granted, okay, it's a kick return, in the special teams, which, by the way, has got to irk Jay Hill that something like that would happen. But they gave up 220 212 yards passing to Mason Petrino and a score. Not that big a deal, but 193 yards on the ground and 3 touchdowns to Idaho. Idaho ran the ball incredibly effectively, which is the area at which Weber State has prides themselves on their defensive line, their front seven, and all that. And they were worked over by this Idaho team on the ground. And that is the surprising part of this to me, and the fact that Idaho, however it happened, scored 35 points against Weber State. I would not have guessed that.
For sure. 5.8 yards per carry for the Vandals,
right.
too.
Yes.
Looking at the box score, I only watched a very short part of this game, but looking at the box score, though, Adam Rodriguez is nowhere to be found, and Adam Rodriguez is a first-team All-Big Sky defensive end. George Tarlas is his backup, and George Tarlas rose up in a big way, having 2 sack strip fumbles to earn Big Sky Conference Defensive Player of the Week. But it's sort of ironic that probably Weber State's worst defensive performance collectively gets their backup DN the Big Sky Defensive Player of the Week. I mean, Weber State gave up more points on Saturday almost than they have all year.
Yeah.
I mean, they gave up 6 points to San Diego State. They only gave 19 points to Nevada, and they gave up 35 to Idaho. Perplexing. But I think that the thing that you always got to remember, and we got to remember this when we're doing our FCS Speculators podcast, which you can check out each week, and everybody around the league has got to remember, it's as Jeff Choate said in the first segment, a win on the road in the Big Sky Conference is incredibly hard to get. Teams are going to struggle to play in the Kibbe Dome for a variety of reasons. It's not as if it's this crazy raucous place. It's because it's this weird place. When Idaho wears those weird gray pants on the gray turf, and there's half the stands are empty, so you have these weird sight lines, and like they got the giant video board behind the uprights, and it just looks like you're in 1979. It's just a weird place. I don't care who you are. It's going to be hard for teams to go in there and play.
Yeah.
And also, I think there's a level of desperation. I mean, when you watch Idaho play, it's crazy to watch their roster because they have like 6 or 8 guys that are as good as anybody in the league because they're FBS
There's
guys.
some talent guys.
I mean,
there.
their 2 D tackles are monsters, and their 2 offensive guards are monsters. I mean, those are FBS caliber linemen. And Jeff Cotton, the receiver, I mean, he's like 6'3", 215. He's a beast.
Yeah.
They just have so much controversy because the guy they're playing at quarterback and the perceived nepotism that comes with that, which is actually funny because Mason Petrino has sometimes been terrible, but actually sometimes has been way better than people give him credit for. So the Vandals remain a gigantic mystery, but to me, the overall number of points scored in that game was shocking, but the fact that it was actually only a 6-point game isn't as shocking just because it was played in Moscow.
Portland State bouncing back after their loss last week to Idaho State, a win 52-31 over Southern Utah. I think that is about what we would have guessed in that game, first home game for Portland State. Northern Arizona beats Northern Colorado 41-23 in Flagstaff. Again, probably about what you would have expected. The other game, though, of note, the nightcap, Sacramento State, not just beating, but winning going away over Eastern Washington at home, 48-27, the first Big Sky game for Sacramento State. They are 1-0 in the conference. Eastern Washington now 1-1 in the Big Sky, 2-4 overall, 48-27 the final, and officially, Coulter, Eastern Washington is in trouble. They got problems, and they are officially not the team that people thought that they were going to be. And we talk about teams that are better than we thought they were. Sacramento State would probably be one of those. Teams that are not as good as we thought they were going to be. Eastern Washington is that. UC Davis, I actually still have a little bit of something out here. Eastern Washington, they're a middle-of-the-road Big Sky team. That's what they are.
And it seems as if they're having weird stuff go on, too, because, I mean, Eric Berrier got benched, and it looked like he might have been hurt, but then he wasn't. He came back into the game, so I don't know what they're doing there, having the quarterback carousel rotating in the middle of the game. And also, I mean, the guy that I voted for as Big Sky Conference preseason Offensive Player of the Year getting benched, we're only at the midpoint of the season, that just it smells like turmoil internally. So you wonder what's going on there. But Sac State, I mean, right now they're second in the league in scoring offense. They're second in the league in scoring defense. That's a pretty darn good combination. Kevin Thompson threw for 315 yards and 3 touchdowns. He also scored 2 touchdowns on the ground. And Sac State also had 2 defensive touchdowns as well. So Jeff Choate said in his press conference today, as Montana State prepares to face Sac State, which will be the only game in Montana this week, so we'll have plenty of coverage for you guys coming up on that. But he said, no question, Sacramento State's the best FCS team we have played to date.
Yeah.
And I think that you're seeing the influx of the mentality Troy Taylor's installing, Andy Thompson coordinating that defense, and just the return of some star players that are healthy. Kevin Thompson, Elijah Dotson, George Obina. Those are 3 of the best guys at their positions in the entire conference. So Sac State, that's a big win for them. First win over a ranked opponent since 2012.
We came into the season with a clear top 5. we are now at a clear top 3 with Weber State and UC Davis out of that. Though Sacramento State may be entering that, depending on how it goes. Okay? So that's just where we're at right now. And we knew that this would shift because it always does, especially with the imbalanced schedule and all that. But it's been pretty remarkable to see the extent to which it has around the Big Sky Conference. Quick break. Come back. We'll get you set for Monday Night Football and the final of 4 divisional games, the Twins and the Yankees, which we'll have for you on ESPN Radio right after the show. Right after this. See how that's working after the show, after this break. Finish up.
I think we just started flowing on offense, you know.
Alpine Touch has been part of the fabric of Montana for more than 60 years. Decades ago, Russell Street started selling his Touch of Magic in whitefish. Years later, Alpine Touch's all-purpose seasoning remains a favorite. It's tailgating season, and there's no better way to spice up your grill before a Grizz game than with Alpine Touch. Go to alpinetouch.com now and use the checkout code ESPN10 for a 10% discount on your order. Alpine Touch is here to keep your mouth watering all football season. Alpine Touch, Montana's special spice. Hey everybody, here with my good friend Josh from the Advocates Injury Law Firm. Josh, if I've been in an accident, how much is it going to cost me to hire you?
Well, we take cases on a contingency fee. And what that means for you is that if you're hurt in an accident, we only get paid if you make a recovery. You'll never owe us anything out of pocket.
What about the call for a consultation?
That's not a problem. We don't charge anything for an initial consultation, so you have absolutely nothing to risk by calling us.
If you're injured in a car accident, call the Advocates, 640-4444, or online at montanaadvocates.com. In Western Montana, we know shopping local matters, and you may think you'd pay more for the quality and customer service that comes with it, but not at Selway Armory. Selway Armory is locally owned with knowledgeable specialists that can answer your questions. In addition to the expertise, though, Selway Armory also has a bigger selection and lower prices than the box stores. When you're in the market for firearms and accessories, save money with the experts at Selway Armory. Selway Armory, 2825 Stockyard Road, Unit E6, and online at selwayarmory.com.
No matter how far you may go, there's always one just down the road. Town Pump, ooh, pump it up, pump it up.
When you need a little extra brain power, head over to Town Pump. They've got what you need. 5-hour energy shots, 3 for $5. Plus, Old Trapper 10-ounce jerky, only $10.99. Get energized at your Town Pump right down the road.
Town Pump, right down the road. Pump it up, oh yeah.
Keiko and Rangish Brothers end of the year clearance event is going on now. Our entire lot is on sale, so if you've been waiting for a smoking hot deal on fifth wheels, campers, toy haulers, and motorhomes, there is no better time to buy than now. Save big on a Jayco J-Flight Bunkhouse SLX with payments as low as $99 per month OAC. Or get huge savings on a 2019 Jayco Eagle fifth wheel, starting at only $28,750. Don't miss our final sales event of the year. Only where a handshake means something. Rangish Brothers RV Center.
Are you interested in putting solar panels on your roof? Do you want the latest on Montana's renewable energy policies? The Montana Renewable Energy Association is a leading voice for renewable energy education and advocacy in Montana. From community-based clean energy events to advocating at the Montana legislature, they work to ensure Montana's future is powered by the sun, wind, and earth. Find out more about MREA and join as a member by visiting montanarenewables.org or calling 406-214-9405.
Tutel and Nuanez. Listen to the podcast on the TuneIn Radio app or on iTunes, 1029ESPN.com.
Browns, Niners tonight. Monday Night Football. And Twinkies, Yankees. ALDS. Tutel Nuanez, 1029 ESPN Radio, broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris Studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy, online at kurtzpolaris.com. If you missed anything in the show, listen on the podcast. The podcast is available for you. We do this for you. Okay? Podcast available on all of your favorite podcasting platforms. Just check out Tutel Nuanez on the podcast. It's brought to you by the Wingate by Wyndham Hotel. By the way, also check out the FCS Speculators, a betting podcast every Wednesday. New episode out for you there as well. Coulter, tonight, Browns, Niners. I have watched
almost all of the Cleveland Browns games, and I have watched almost none of the San Francisco 49er games. The Niners are 3-1 on the season. The Browns 2-2, coming off an impressive win over Baltimore on the road last week. The 49ers are a 5-point favorite. They are at home. They are 3-1, and they are the number 2 team in the NFC West as of right now. I mean, you know what I'm going to say, and I 100% admit my bias both in a rooting interest, in a just general interest, and in an utter, almost nearly total ignorance of what the 49ers are. I mean, I know what they are. I know the guys that are on their team, but in terms of watching them play and what Kyle Shanahan has been doing and all that, nothing. So this will be really my first exposure. That's not going to stop me from going on my lock of the year rant about the Cleveland Browns tonight. It's certainly not a lock of the year. It's not a lock at all, but I'm still taking the Browns.
Yeah, the Niners are a mystery. I think that they're probably a mystery to most people in Montana because I think we're all in the same boat. They haven't really been on TV yet. Like as far as just the national games, because I haven't seen. I mean, I've seen almost every single team in the league in some form or fashion. I haven't seen the Niners at all either. I do know because of just fantasy football that the Niners are incredibly banged up at running back.
Tevin Coleman is expected back tonight.
Matt Breida's been nursing an ankle. Jerick McKinnon is on injured reserve, so that hurts. I think that there's a little bit of a misperception amongst these slick offensive minds that are the young guys like Sean McVay and Kyle Shanahan to run all the spread out passing game stuff that they want to run. You got to be able to run the ball. It starts with the inside zone. That's where the Rams are struggling right now because Todd Gurley's not producing at the level he was. Mm-hmm. And if you can't run the ball, then the whole mechanism of the offense doesn't work as well. And I think that's where the 49ers might run into something too. And the 49ers, they have okay but not elite talent at receiver. They have George Kittle, who's an elite player at tight end, but I'm not really sure what they have. I mean, they have some good stories at receiver, but they don't have the firepower that a lot of the other teams in the league have.
The good news for San Francisco as far as that goes, Greedy Williams and Denzel Ward both expected to be out in that Browns secondary. Obviously, Denzel Ward is like a next-level player for the Browns, and they the two of them together really make that thing go. So if they're both out, you might see the ball getting chucked around the yard and say, hey, let's see second tier tight end or wide receivers going against second tier DBs and who's going to win out in that battle. But it will be fun. I do think Levi Stadium, Coulter, I mean, it's an impressive place, man. They got that thing is all wired up where you got, it's not surprising, right? But all the, the touchscreen stuff at your seat, all the information coming all the time to you, evidently while you're there. I've never been there, but this is what I've read, things I've heard on the internet. But it's a great looking stadium in Santa Clara and so forth. It's a nice spot, a good place, and people get nostalgic. Oh, Candlestick Park, yada yada yada. Get it out of here, okay? There are times, I think they upgrade stadiums far too often in general, but Candlestick was one that's got to go, and you can go ahead and get on with Levi's Stadium. Also tonight, coming up here right at the top of the hour, we're going to send you to Minnesota, where the Minnesota Twins are down 0-2, going home for the first time in this ALDS against the New York Yankees. Obviously, they got to win to stay alive. Houston lost today, so both teams that needed a win to continue the series did win. Tampa Bay hammered Houston at home 10-3, and the St. Louis Cardinals, after a devastating loss, they were up 1-0 at an absolutely epic performance, defensively in Game 3, and then give up 3 runs in the 9th inning and lose the thing. So they're down 2-1 to Atlanta. They win in the 10th inning today, 5-4 over the Braves. So that game goes to a 5th and decisive game in Atlanta. And right now, the Los Angeles Dodgers and Washington Nationals are tied at 1-1 in the top of the 4th, and I believe that series is at a game apiece right now as well. This game in Washington, top of the 4th inning, the Dodgers a runner on second and no outs right now. So we'll keep the Riley Corcoran alert on with the Dodgers going.
I thought you were going to for sure perish today, so I texted Riley. I said, "Hey, are you in town?" I didn't ask him what I might want, and he said, "No, I'm already in LA."
Yeah. Oh, he's.
But actually, they're not at home, so I think he just went down there to play golf.
Oh, well, you could have played golf here. It's a beautiful day for it. Although they said like 65 today. It never got close to 65. See, I was all prepared with layers. It is, start off cold and then it's going to get nice. It was fairly cool for most of the day, which is okay because I was jogging, which is something I hate. 97 holes of golf I played, Coulter. Think about that.
I know. I'm more worried about you for tomorrow. You've been riding high this show. You're screwed
This
tomorrow,
is the greatest
buddy.
act of stamina of my whole life, man. I mean, 36 holes I think was my max, maybe 45 before. 97? But I do it for the kids, man.
It's great to. This is a good deal though, because I do think that golf is one of those sports that really can just pass you by, because it's such an expensive entry point, and that can be so intimidating for so many parents. And you never know. I mean, maybe there's a kid out there that's just a less fortunate kid that could become a great golfer, but he just never has the opportunity. So to get it into schools and it's like Joey Ash said last week on the show, there's very few sports you can play. I mean, we're not going out there and playing football right now.
Nope.
We're not going out there and playing, a lot of different things. There's no fast pitch baseball for men.
Well, the thing
now you have golf, and if you can get it into golf at an early age, I think it could be very rewarding for you for your whole life.
And especially when it's free. Because I think I golfed like $600 of retail today.
I love it.
Boys and girls, enjoy Monday Night Football. Enjoy baseball. We'll see you tomorrow. And I will be rested, perhaps stiff, and just hopefully alive. That's what I expect for tomorrow. Thanks for being with us. Thanks to Will Disley for joining us. It was good of him to join us. If you missed that, check it out on the podcast. Having a nice Monday evening.
Now, the Montana Club's happy hour features BOGO beverages. Our expertly mixed cocktails, microbrews, domestics, and wine are buy one, get one free 7 days a week from 3 to 5:30. Stop in on Friday for Montini